in Racine, Wisconsin. From powder coating and liquid painting to blasting and custom finishing, D&D Industrial delivers top-tier protection and performance, fast, precise, and built to last. With over 40 years of experience, ISO-certified processes, and state-of-the-art lines, D&D handles everything from OEMs and petrochemical to agriculture, marine, construction, medical, and government specs. Family-owned, nationally trusted. Whether it's a short run or high volume, your parts are in expert hands, finished on time and finished right. Visit them today, ddindustrial.net. Again, that's ddindustrial.net. Or call them at 262-637-0686 to get your custom quote today. Again, that's 262-637-0686. D&D Industrial Coatings, engineered to protect, finished to impress.
Making the switch to a new communications and IT company may seem like a big ordeal. But if you're not getting the reliable support, consistent internet, and secure solutions your company needs, meet Access One, your local Chicagoland IT experts. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One is here for you. Serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore, Access One is Chicago-owned and Chicago-run, a trusted IT partner for law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. We'll make the switch easier than you think. Let's talk. Call 800-804-8333 or visit accessoneinc.com. Rated top 5% in customer satisfaction and a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business. That's accessoneinc.com. Tech made personal locally.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be breezy and warm with lots of clouds in the morning, giving way to some sunshine later. Expect a high of 76. Tonight it will become cloudy and stay warm with a chance of a few showers arriving late. Temperatures will drop to a low of 64. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Forever Remodeling. Stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4everremodeling.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So, a rather unsurprising development after the raid on his home. Former U.S. ambassador to the UN and National Security Advisor to President Trump, John Bolton, appeared on this show many times, indicted on 18 counts of mishandling classified information, 8 counts of transmitting national defense information, and 10 counts of retaining such information. And of course, this is going to be immediately treated as political retribution for somebody that fell out of favor with President Trump in his first term, and who President Trump describes today. Well, here was his description after the indictment.
Do you have a reaction to that?
I didn't know that. You told me for the first time, but I think he's, a bad person. I think he's a bad guy. Yeah, he's a bad guy. It's too bad, but that's the way it goes.
The case against him?
That's the way it goes, right? That's the way it goes. Will I what?
Have you reviewed the case against him?
No, I haven't. But I just think he's a bad person.
The charges relate to diary notes he took during his time in the Trump White House. They allege that Bolton wrote diary entries and then transmitted those on 8 occasions to Individual 1 and Individual 2, who are his wife and daughter, respectively. Of course, neither family member had access or had clearance to handle or access classified material. So this is perhaps more than just political retribution. There's a component to it. I mean, there's a component to this being political. It's sort of inextricably tied to politics because of the nature of the relationship and the falling out the two of them had. And the answer to the question, if John Bolton was still in good standing with this indictment be coming down. I mean, if he was still in good standing with the president, if the two still had a cordial relationship, even though maybe he wasn't part of this administration, but they were otherwise friendly, where there wasn't this level of antagonism, with this indictment be coming down. Something to consider. Bolton perhaps put a target on his back over the years by saying things like this when President Trump was indicted for allegedly mishandling classified information.
Will have to prove it, then he has committed very serious crimes. This is a devastating indictment. I speak here as an alumnus of the Justice Department myself, because not only is it powerful, it's very narrowly tailored. They didn't throw everything up against the wall to see what would stick. This really is a rifle shot, and I think it should be the end of Donald Trump's political career.
Well, the worm has turned, hasn't it? As it has in so many other instances. But consistent with how John Bolton described the indictment of President Trump on the matter of classified information, before this is just treated as a political hit on John Bolton, where the opportunity presented itself, before we just conclude that and essentially suggest that there is no sort of underlying substance to the claims, that this is not a serious matter as it pertains to what John Bolton is alleged to have done. Before you conclude that, you may want to listen to what Trey Gowdy had to say, also a former prosecutor, and, of course, somebody who had security clearances as a member of the House Judiciary Committee back during his time in Congress.
Sean, I cannot tell you and your viewers how serious the information that John Bolton both disseminated to his wife and daughter, that's who the unindicted co-conspirators are, and retained. It is the gravest secrets that this country has. It's the kind of information that gets people killed. Millions of documents over years, and he's out there lecturing, whether it's Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, or anyone else. There are so many clips in this indictment of him having notice and knowledge of how to handle material. All the while he was breaking it. I cannot stress to you the job that Kash Patel and John Lee Ratcliffe did in bringing this case to indictment. The gravest possible danger could have been done to this country, and may well have been done because Iran accessed his email at his home. This is very, very serious.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. How do you come down on this if you want to weigh in? Now, on the matter of Iran hacking his email, it is worth noting that he cooperated with the FBI in terms of investigating that hacking. Remember, he was one of those that was allegedly targeted for assassination by the Iranians. So I'm not sure that you could make the case that his alleged mishandling of classified information or transmitting classified information to parties he shouldn't have transmitted it to actually endangered any lives. But it's sort of a best practices argument. Yeah. Something else, though, that offers a wrinkle here in terms of just dismissing this as political retribution. The argument that went back and forth that turned into a civil case filed by the Trump administration against John Bolton as it pertained to his book, In the Room Where It Happened. There was an argument about whether or not he had classified information or that classified information was going to be disseminated. Ultimately, I mean, he ran the clearance checks they're supposed to run, and what they were concerned about being published was not published. I don't know what that is. But the judge in that case did not want to take the extraordinary step that the Trump administration had asked for, which is to prevent the book from being published. But he did say in his commentary that the information that John Bolton had and perhaps was prepared to include was concerning and could, in fact, jeopardize national security. That's not verbatim, but he used words to that effect, Judge Royce Lamberth in the case. You can look it up. So that's another wrinkle. So there was this controversy over the book. There was an argument that resulted in a case in a civil court to try to prevent the book from being published. So Bolton just powered through that. And, now comes a new administration with a new attitude. I mean, you could argue the Justice Department under Biden declined to pursue any criminal charges against John Bolton. Well, you could understand that to be political too, that there was a case to be made there, but the Biden Justice Department decided not to pursue it because he was a Trump antagonist and useful to their interests. Before anybody pretends to be coming to the table or pretending the other side is coming to the table with clean hands on this. So there's definitely a political overlay, but the political overlay isn't limited to Trump. Greg in Schaumburg, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Morning, Dan. Don't mean to pull you off topic, but yesterday when this story broke on Bolton, Pence's name came up, and it seems like he's somehow or maybe connected to Bolton in some manner, or maybe independently, having given aid and comfort to the Democrats specifically on January 6th. So let's just assume for a second to set up the question. Let's assume it's separate from Bolton. Can they go after Pence?
Okay, they'll go after Pence on what basis? For what charge?
Well, let's just say that there's any kind of collusion where as I said, I felt that the whole decision on the 6th on his part was not correct constitutionally, that he is not a clerk, that he is somebody that should have, he was anointed by the founders to be a wise person when there is a dispute on the elector slates, and all he had to do was throw it back to the different states, and he didn't do that. And if they can show, as it was purported in some ways yesterday, that he acquiesced to people and there was a deal made, or not a deal, but there was, the Democrats got their way on that point. If they can show that Pence was involved in that equation in any way, can they go after Pence?
I don't see, thanks for the call, Greg. I don't see a criminal case there. That's a political question. And there are really no criminal penalties that attach to an interpretation of the vice president's role. I mean, I understand there's this constitutional matter as well as some statutory language that's relevant. But, well, first of all, you have a lot of people that interpret both in a way favorable to Pence, myself included. So no, I don't see a criminal case there, no. But in terms of making this out to be just a matter of politics, a vindictive prosecution, and so forth, Jonathan Turley, who was also on with Gowdy on Hannity's program last night, had this to say about the sorts of arguments that Abby Lowell, Hunter Biden's attorney, now John Bolton's attorney, that he might try to make in court that will not be indulged by the judge because it's just off topic as to the substance of the case against Bolton.
No, they are cut and dry. As a longtime criminal defense attorney, I got to tell you, 18 counts of this kind really concentrates the mind because the jurors tend to look at this as a very simple question. Did he have classified information? Did he mishandle it? And two arguments will not work in that courtroom. One is that this is all old classified information. It doesn't matter if it's old or brand new. If it's still classified, you violate the statute. The other argument is that everyone does this, that this is, as Abby said, everyone has diaries. Well, that's not going to fly either in that courtroom. I mean, he's going to try, just as Comey's going to try and James is going to try to bring up a vindictive prosecution claim. Generally, courts don't, and also a selective prosecution, so both of those. generally courts do not go for those. If you have a viable criminal case that comes out of a grand jury, they tend not to want to look at motivations. This indictment looks pretty serious. I mean, the level of classification is very high, but also the fact that he was repeatedly warned. He was in this real battle with the government over his book, and he basically didn't yield to them. And then finally, you have that decision by Lamberth where he said, look, I can't force all these books to be destroyed, but he said, you really did undermine national security here.
My point about that previous civil case. I got to tell you, how vociferous Trey Gowdy is on this. He must know something that we don't about the nature of the classified information that was allegedly mishandled. But here was his prediction to close it out.
He is convicted, and he spends the remainder of his natural life in the custody of the Federal Bureau of Prisons.
Okay. Coming up at 5:38, we turn our attention to Gold Coast Fat. And, of course, I mean that with PH. Pritzker explains his Vegas winnings, 5:38. Now we check that button.
Good morning. It is 57 degrees in Chicago on AM 560. The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. An Illinois police officer was taken into custody by ICE agents after allegedly living here in the U.S. illegally for a decade. Chicago Border Patrol agent Greg Bovino tells Fox's America Reports that this is unbelievable.
It's a felony for an illegal alien to possess or own a firearm, but yet here we have an illegal alien with a firearm in the state of Illinois, as per J.B. Pritzker and those leaders.
The suspect is accused of overstaying a visa that expired in 2015. It's reported that in 2025, he earned over $200,000 working in Hanover, Illinois. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says he's truly a lucky man after he reported $1.4 million in gambling winnings from one trip to Las Vegas. Meanwhile, a Republican legislator says it shows how out of touch the billionaire politician is. This news report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage. Macy's Backstage is a whole department inside your Macy's store where you can find the latest fall looks, all for under $30. With new arrivals every day, you never know what amazing deals you're going to find. Don't wait. Find a location at Macy'sBackstage.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next.
Get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, happening on Saturday, November 8th at Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. This year, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, along with Dan Proft, Sean Thompson, John Anthony, and many more. This event will sell out fast, so get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Nauman and Associates, Scott Tucker Solutions Incorporated, and by Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago.
President Trump has made some pretty amazing claims since he's taken his seat as president. He's delivering on what he promised. On Inauguration Day, Trump's very first declaration was,
"The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish."
Consider this. Since the election, gold has shot up hundreds of dollars per ounce, shattering all-time record highs. Fox Valley Coins does not pretend to know the future, but they do know that if you're buying or selling gold or silver, they are the place to do it. These are some of the top reasons people choose a dealer. You want a national dealer with a local presence you can deal with face-to-face. You want a large selection, the best prices, and great service. You want to walk in with cash and walk out with the best product. You want to deal with legacy dealers with integrity. Whether buying or selling or just one valuation, Fox Valley Coins is your answer for choosing a dealer. Visit Fox Valley Coins, 1 light north of I-88 on Route 59 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. FoxValleyCoins.com. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
Want to see if you could pay less in taxes? Try the quick and easy tax calculator at willsave.com. Yes, a free tax calculator. That's WILSAVE.com. Calculate how you could keep more of your hard-earned money and give less to Uncle Sam, especially in retirement. Get your free tax analysis today at willsave.com. And don't forget to tune in to Protecting Your Assets with Steve Shyman every Saturday morning at 8, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere. Delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Pluto TV.
Protect your liver and give it the support it deserves with Active Liver from New Nordic. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or at newnordicusa.com.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be breezy and warm with clouds in the morning, then some sun later. Expect a high of 76. Tonight it will turn cloudy and warm with a few late showers. The low will be 64. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560. The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Scott Tucker Solutions and his show Retirement Decoded. Sunday mornings at 8. Learn more at scotttuckersolutions.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, and many more. Get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So yesterday I brought up this issue as reported by the Tribune per the partial release of Pritzker's tax returns, I assume for 2024. Unless he's preparing to file already for 2025 before the year's out. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is $10.3 million in income, taxable income, which is not that impressive when you're sitting on a pile of cash that counts $4 billion in number. But the wrinkle here was, of the $10.3 million in taxable income, $1.4 million from gambling winnings. So, of course, we wanted to hear more from Jelly Bally's Pritzker. See what I did there? We're working on it. You know, again, I mentioned yesterday, Texas had Amarillo Slim. We have Gold Coast Fat with a PH. We'll take other suggested nicknames. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, as well as conjecture as to how he put together $1.4 million in winnings on a single trip to Vegas. We got a Rain Man in the governor's mansion in Illinois? Doesn't strike me like that. He said yesterday, amid obvious questions coming from all quarters, you know, how'd that happen? Oh, and by the way, what are you going to do with the money? And all of a sudden, he is going to make a $1.4 million charitable donation. Isn't that funny? It wasn't his inclination. It was, of course, it wasn't his inclination. This is a guy who pulled the toilets out of his house to reduce his property tax bill. He's not exactly, I wouldn't say generosity is necessarily his middle name. Bally's is, or Belly. Anyway, this is what he said in explanation.
I've explained this, or at least we did in a statement, that I went on vacation with my wife, with some friends. I was incredibly lucky. You have to be to end up ahead, frankly, going to a casino anywhere. It was in Las Vegas, and I like to play cards, and so that I founded a charitable poker match here in Chicago called the Chicago Poker Challenge that has raised millions of dollars for the Holocaust Museum here, and particularly to stand up for civil rights. That's much of what the Holocaust Museum does, and so anyway. That's all I can say about it. I mean, I had fun doing it. I encourage people to come to the state of Illinois and gamble in our casinos here. We have some really lovely places to go.
Yeah, come lose your money here. You have to be lucky to get ahead. What a marketing campaign. for the casinos. Yeah, go lose your money, because that's what most people are going to casinos to do. I mean, that's obviously what happens, and most people know that's likely what's going to happen. But I mean, all this gambling, this gambling mecca that Illinois has become is so predatory, sickening. If you've gone to one of those casinos that Pritzker likes to tout, and I'm somebody that likes to play cards too, as Jelly Bally's had to say. But I mean, there's so many questions I have about this. Oh, just a little bit of a hot streak at the table there, Rain Man, bringing down the house with part of that crew. I mean, okay, so you're at the blackjack. No, tell us the story. Yeah, and please tell us the casino, because I'd love to see if we could maybe get the IRS to subpoena the footage, make sure that he's accurate in terms of his winnings. I hope he's not understating them. Wouldn't want any tax implications for the governor. But the casino. You playing at a private table? Like, are you roped off? Are you playing by yourself? Are you playing with others? Are you on third base? Do you even know what that is? Are you a card counter? I'm trying to figure out if he's a novice or if he has some basis. I like to play cards. Okay. Are you a card counter? Do you have like a high-low count system? What was the play? What was your average bet? What's your progression in terms of how you bet up and down depending on your count? I mean, I just want to know. I want to know if we're dealing with a sophisticated here. Otherwise, I want to know how you ran up $1.4 million in one sitting, if that's the story. Or, even more interesting, is if it was multiple sessions over a couple of days that you and your wife were vacationing in Vegas. You guys go on vacation in Vegas? I wouldn't have pegged that either. Who are your friends? So many questions. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Any other elected officials in Illinois gambling with you? I know a few who could have been. Not mentioning any names, the mayor of Melrose Park. Not because I know he was there, but just because I know how he gambles. Another Democrat, machine guy. I mean, let's just lay it all on the table, huh? We're all adults. We can take it. It's okay if you like to play 21. I do too. I just want to hear the story. You run up $1.4 million. You don't want to tell anybody the story? I would. Neil in LaGrange.
Well, that was my first question. What casino was he at? And
was it owned by the Pritzker family? Yeah, right.
That's right. The other question I had for you, Dan, are the actual, the tax forms, like the individual ones, like the 1099, where it shows the amount of money that he brought in, are those foyable? I would think
it's not foyable because it's private tax returns, but you would definitely get something like that. Yes, yeah. I've gotten that.
The other thing, then I would imagine that if you couldn't do that, well, then I'm sure he's not gambling by himself because he's got a security detail. Well, I'm sure we could probably FOIA some of those records. That is, where was the security detail staying at? So it wouldn't be too. And then, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, but I want to know. I want to know who he is playing with, if anybody.
Right.
Because if you're just sitting at a public table and you're at like a $50 or $100 table,
he's
whatever,
not going to be sitting at a public table,
I can't imagine, but maybe he's a man of the people, yeah. Neil. I don't know.
Well, if you remember when Betty Lauren Maltese, remember that story?
I do.
Right before she went to jail, she was losing all this money in those small little casinos downtown.
Slot
and they
machines.
said, why is she Oh, is that what it was? Well,
she was slots, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wasn't that supposed that she was protecting her commissary account or something? That's what I read. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but
thanks for the call, Neil. I mean, look, I just that is not sufficient as a story. And then the misdirection play about, I started this charity poker tournament to raise money for the Holocaust Museum because I'm so concerned. This is the stuff I do and blah, blah. I mean, just go off on the tangent, real subtly. Where I'm the hero in the story, and I just happen to be lucky. I mean, I don't. Come on, You were lucky. How lucky were you? Give us the details. How lucky were you? Somebody texted 847. He regularly plays poker with legislators. So what? What does that mean? Okay. Yeah, I regularly play poker with a lot of guys, too, that don't know how to play poker. And by the way, he wasn't playing poker. He said he was playing 21. And he wasn't playing against his friends. He was playing against the house. So, I mean, you regularly play poker with your legislators. Yeah, exactly. Is he the pigeon at the table? Although, I mean, God, these legislators are so dumb. He may be the Amarillo Slim at that table. But, I mean, but not in a casino where you got guys that actually can play. I mean, come on, no follow-ups from our dutiful Chicago press corps? Go ahead, brag on yourself a little bit, Governor. Ken in Bridgeport.
Hi, I just had a good name for our Governor Pritzker. He's a true example of the Las Vegas whale.
There you go. Thanks, Ken. Frank in Arlington Heights.
Hey, good morning. 82. It's from Rain Man. That's when he counts the toothpicks. I like that as a new nickname for him.
Okay. That's a little bit of that's a little deep. I think, you think Rain Man, you think Wapner 4. But yeah, but I hear you. Okay.
No, well, another thing, too, is if he gave the money for the charity, what he should have gone and done is just lost. He could have created the same effect because gambling losses can offset your gambling winnings. So you should, now he's he's got to go and give the money away. So
yeah, well, thanks for the call, Frank. Except on his own political ambitions, again, this guy strikes me as somebody who throws nickels around like manhole covers, to wit, pulling the toilets out of his mansion to lower his property tax bill by about 1/5 of what he won in Vegas. I mean, it's still fraud, but just give you a little bit of indication. But I mean, is this guy Ben Mesrick? I mean, come on. Don't you want to know what his system is? If he has one, he's just lucky. So what did you do? Did you just do, 500 and you won, and then you made it 1,000, and then you just did this progression right up to 1.4 million with maybe a few fits and starts, and just over an hour you had this lucky run? I mean, I know the money is not meaningful in the sense of his wealth that mommy and daddy and grandma and grandpa left him. I know it's not meaningful, but it is to him the way that he worries about his property tax bill, it would seem. But nonetheless, I mean, he could win 1.5, lose 1.5. What's the difference? Nothing. But I just want to know how you did it. Mike in Union.
Morning, Dan. Hey, Dan, I've never been to Vegas, but I heard they have free buffet. So maybe he ate $1.5 million in buffet, and they were just giving his money back, thinking he got something for free. And then second, when you think?
Oh, so we lost you. You cut out for a second when you said "and second." So repeat yourself.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. So he probably ate $1.5 million in buffet, and they gave him his money back, because it's free, obviously. And then, what kind of milkshake do you think he had afterwards when he was asked what he was going to do with the money?
All right. I mentioned the free buffets from now until his final days yesterday. So I take the easy ones. You don't get to take the easy ones. Those are for me. All right. No flush Pritzker. Text from 815. Dean in Sarasota.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Good for him. I couldn't get lucky in a women's prison. When I go to Vegas, I can't do that. And one time I went to Vegas in a $125,000 Mercedes and came back in a $600,000 Greyhound bus.
Yeah, I know that story. I've lived that on a smaller scale. I get it. How often do you play, Governor? That's just like during your downtime. Oh, I hear we play poker with the legislators. You and the missus go out to Vegas for a romantic weekend. Maybe go see the Eagles at the Sphere, play some cards. I mean, just tell us about it. You know, why so furtive? We're all pals here. Marvin, Burlington, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I feel bad for those dealers because I don't think they're going to be able to get a job now for the rest of their lives in Vegas if they're dealing him cards like that. If I was a reporter, I'd like to know who the owners of the casino are. I don't know the $1.4 million is going to buy any influence from him, but it's all very strange to me.
Well, if he's on a heater, you know, how many times did they change out the dealers when you were on that heater? How many tap outs? Did they send William H. Macy to sit down next to you? Anybody get that reference? Did you ever see the movie The Cooler? William H. Macy, Alec Baldwin? Really good. Roger, Southside.
I'm glad he's so conscious of the money. You know, I just wish he'd bring up how much money with all these suits he brings against the Trump administration. He obviously knows the value of money now. We all know that.
I don't know. It's come too easy to him. You know, goes to Vegas, pulls down a cool 1.4, comes home. Roy, Glen Ellen.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. How about, I love the Gulf Coast fat, but how about Jelly Belly largesse, as in large fat?
Okay, thanks, Roy. George in Naperville.
Yes, happy Friday, Dan. Luck be a fatty tonight.
Okay, George. Larry, Elmhurst.
Hey, Dan, good morning. Do you think that maybe that was a misprint that he spent that much at a buffet?
Hi-oh. All right, again, I get the easy ones. I'm expecting more from you. Craig in Mount Greenwood.
Oh, hey, Dan. Thanks for taking my call. You know, they say these people that gamble and everything, if they place like really big bets and everything, they're either have a gambling problem or they're greedy. Well, hey, that basically is this guy. We know he's a greedy glutton when it comes to food. This guy must be a greedy glutton with no matter what he does and everything. Can't control himself and whatever. And yeah, they ought to look into it and see what's going on.
Well, I don't know about it. I don't know about that. I mean, but I would like to know, like, what'd you sit down at the table with? You know, what was your stake? What did you start with? So you ran up 1.4 million, but that's why I want to know these details. What was your average bet? What was the progression and regression based on any count? Or you were just there with a pina colada, just killing time, enjoying the scenery of whatever casino you were in, relaxing, you know, unwinding from, gosh, all the time you've been spending demonizing federal law enforcement officers and telling beautiful lies to a docile suburban electorate. I just, why can't you fill us in? This whole kind of, I was very lucky. You have to be lucky to win anything, and aw shucks, and oh, by the way, since you asked, I'm going to donate the 1.4 to some charity. Sure, I am. Of course, yeah. This was all my idea. Dan Prof, Chicago's Morning Answer.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
MyPillow is excited to announce they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you won't find anywhere else. My Slippers, only $39.98. Any color, any style. Regular $149.98. Now only $39.98. That's a $110 savings. Once they're gone for good. My Towels are finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. $17.98. And for the first and only time, get their limited edition premium MyPillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens $17.98, Kings only $19.98. Also, for a limited time, when your order is over $100, you'll receive free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. That number again is 800-489-0201. Promo code LIBERTY.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Viva Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Viva Las Vegas.
Talking about Jelly Bally's Pritzker and his big gambling winnings in Vegas. He was sort of modest in telling the story of how it happened. Just a little bit of luck. And since you asked, I'm going to donate the proceeds to charity. Nothing to see here. I don't know. Bob and Palatine, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, Dan, good morning. Great article coincides. City Journal this morning writes about our pension obligation, which is insurmountable. And I just thought, well, maybe we just give the money to Pritzker and he'll be able to solve the problem.
Well, he's going to have to go on a much bigger heater than $1.4 million. I'll tell you that. Thanks for the call, Bob. He's going to have to take that $4 billion worth of net worth he has and, I don't know, run that up about 50-fold. And then we're talking about dealing with Illinois' unfunded pension liabilities. But a couple of texts get in here, too. JB from 815, JB's subtle shift in topic is the biggest tell. Yeah, the good gamblers don't have a tell, and that was a tell. The subtle shift. Yeah, I was just lucky. And then, I like to play cards. I have this charity tournament. I did it. Yeah, okay. All right. Text from 60. I must have got comp for the hotel room. Yeah, hotel room. Yeah, as I said, buffets for life. Illinois Fats is a suggested nickname for this gambling impresario that we have as governor. Yeah, people wondering about the Vegas casino. I bet Pritzker was down to his last sawbuck and said, what the hell? And the next thing you know, $1.4 million later, he had a great trip. Yeah. Yeah, that's how it goes in the movies, maybe. Good stuff. All right. Coming up at 6:06, we'll turn our attention to these debates, the debates on the left and the debate over what some of these YRs had to say, and chat rooms or chat groups that got exposed because there's all this whataboutism going on now to try to run interference in the Virginia Attorney General's race, and with respect to the left and their ugliness generally. It's now 6 o'clock. WIND.
Bad guy. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what President Trump calls John Bolton right after the news came out that his former national security advisor turned critic was indicted.
That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes, right? That's the way it goes. Will I what?
Have you reviewed the case against him?
No, I haven't. But I just think he's a bad person.
Bolton is facing 18 charges related to his handling of classified documents, including transmitting national defense information, some of it said to be top secret.
In a statement, Bolton maintained his innocence, saying this in part, quote, I have devoted my life to America's foreign policy and national security, would never compromise those goals. These charges are not just about Trump's focus on me or my diaries, but his intensive efforts to intimidate his opponents.
Fox's Chanley Painter. President Trump will meet again today with Ukraine's leader Volodymyr Zelensky, who's pushing for the U.S. to send advanced Tomahawk missiles to help battle Russia. The president's also planning another summit in the coming weeks with Russian leader Vladimir Putin. The two talked by phone yesterday.
Zelensky saying on X, we hope that the momentum of curbing terror and war, which worked in the Middle East, will help end the Russian war against Ukraine. Putin is definitely not braver than Hamas or any other terrorist.
Fox's Madeline Rivera. A few weeks before a closely watched election for mayor mayor in New York City. A debate on WNBC.
This is not a job for a first-timer.
That's former Governor Andrew Cuomo taking a swipe at the socialist frontrunner, Democrat nominee Zohran Mamdani.
Why would New Yorkers turn back to the governor who sent seniors to their death in nursing homes? That's the kind of experience that's on offer here today. What I don't have an experience, I make up for in integrity.
And those two took aim at each other over and over and vowed to stand up to the president. Republican Curtis Sliwa then said,
if you try to get tough with Trump, the only people who are going to suffer from that are the people of New York City.
Okay, but a new Fox poll has Sliwa far behind in that mayor's race at 14%. Mamdani way out in front, 52% support among likely voters. Cuomo's at 28%. America's listening to Fox News.
WIND, Chicago.
Good morning. It's 57 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. A federal appeals court has ruled that the Trump administration cannot deploy National Guard troops in Chicago. Fox's Jessica Rosenthal has more.
A federal judge had ruled against the Trump administration's effort to deploy the Illinois and Texas National Guard in places including Chicago, finding insufficient evidence of a rebellion or danger of one. Now, a three-judge panel of the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals has found, even with deference toward the president, the facts do not justify his actions in Illinois. The judges write that the federal government has been able to protect federal property and personnel without the National Guard's help, but that deploying the Guard is likely violating the state's 10th Amendment rights, and that the deployment of Texas Guard members would be an incursion on Illinois' sovereignty, making the constitutional injury especially significant. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Illinois lawmakers and nonprofit leaders remain divided over federal SNAP changes, sparring over work requirements, administrative errors, and the rising costs of new state responsibilities. During an Illinois House Appropriations Health and Human Services Committee hearing, the CEO of Greater Chicago Food Depository, Kate Mayer, argued that work requirements don't achieve their intended goals.
What having a work requirement often leads to is a decision to not apply for the benefit, and that has huge implications, particularly for children.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says he's a lucky man after reporting $1.4 million in gambling winnings from one trip to Las Vegas. Meanwhile, Republican legislators say it shows just how out of touch the billionaire politician is. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again. Not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, happening on Saturday, November 8th at Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. This year, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, along with Dan Proft, Sean Thompson, John Anthony, and many more. This event will sell out fast, so get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Aid for Women, Breakthrough Ideas, and by attorney Stephen A. Leahy at Opum Tax Advocates.
You ever wonder why Verizon charges twice as much as Pure Talk for the same basic service? Think it might have something to do with the fact that Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotion? That's billion with a B. Yeah, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. That's why they can offer unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Save an additional 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say the words Micro. That's pound 250, Micro.
It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock is here with tips to help protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication on your accounts, report phishing, and update your software on all your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, LifeLock is your best choice. LifeLock not only alerts you to suspicious uses of your personal information, but also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. So stay smart, stay safe, and stay protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use the promo code BECK. Terms do apply.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-458-9469. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-458-9469. 800-458-9469. 800-458-9469.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Looking great on the Eden both ways from Lake Cook to Montrose, about 14 minutes in both directions. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange, 17 minutes. Outbound is 23 with a collision right at Central Avenue. The Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office is 13 minutes. Outbound looks good at 14. The Stevenson, no delays from the Tri-State to Lakeshore, 21 minutes. Outbound is 16. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange, inbound is 14, outbound is 11. Now there is a crash on the inbound side at 83rd Street, so the delays begin right around 95th Street, and the tollway slows down on the northbound side as you approach the Eisenhower. Traffic is a service of Surround Chicago. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be breezy and warm with lots of clouds in the morning, giving way to some sunshine later. Expect a high of 76. Tonight it will become cloudy and stay warm with a chance of a few showers arriving late. Temperatures will drop to a low of 64. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft. A couple of important debates last night. In Virginia, the Attorney General candidates debated. Jason Miyares, the incumbent Republican, and, of course, the now infamous Jay Jones, this rising star in the neo-Marxist Party in Virginia, whose star has darkened quite a bit after these text messages that he sent back and forth in a back and forth with Republican legislator, fellow Republican legislator. He was a Democrat legislator. Revealed that he wanted to see the Speaker of the the Speaker of the Virginia House killed, and he also would like to see his, at the time, basically infant children die in the arms of his wife, that's the speaker, because, pain is the only thing that brings about policy change. Basically a summary of some of what he had to say. There was more, all along the lines of death fantasies, murder fantasies, really, in a sense, based on some of his texts. So, of course, Miyares, who has moved up to a lead that's outside the margin of error, according to the most recent polling I've seen in that race, and may be able to, sort of ironically, provide enough coattails for Winsome Sears, the gubernatorial candidate, for her to stage an upset, considering how far back she was previously and how close the race is now. But anyway, he went for the jugular, and I thought fairly effectively.
Your text messages that advocated for violence against innocent children, Jay, if you were to apply to be a line prosecutor in not just my office, any attorney general office in the country, you would not pass a background check. And right now, you may say that you are sorry, but look back at what happened. You had 3 years to say you're sorry, Jay, and you didn't. 3 years to actually recognize what you did was horrific. You chose to stay silent. Carrie Cornier called you out then. You doubled down. It was after she called you out for these text messages that is when you said you advocated for violence against children. And when this became public, we now know your first statement wasn't saying I'm sorry. The words I'm sorry wasn't even in your statement. It was to say we all send text messages we regret. You attacked the president and you attacked me. It wasn't until 12 hours after you were first notified that you then decided to say I'm sorry. Because at the end of the day, Jay, you're a politician, not a prosecutor, and you certainly can't be the top prosecutor.
I'll tell you what, it was really good to focus on the timeline. I had glossed over that myself, and it's important. What was his first instinct? First of all, he had 3 years knowing these texts were out there, knowing this exchange was out there, knowing that he said these things to a Republican legislator. I don't know if he's had interactions with her in the intervening 3 years, but she basically in the exchange told him to stop, knock it off, and he wouldn't. He kept coming back at her with increasingly vile content. But it's a good point. 3 years to say, I've made some mistakes. I've said some things that were overheated and irresponsible to preempt it. But it never even occurred to him to do that. And he was not at all bothered by what he said, which is why it never occurred to him over those 3 years to do it. And then what his first reaction was, his first instinct was when they were unearthed and became public, which is, as you heard from Mieres, to say, lots of people say irresponsible things. What about Trump? What about Mieres? And, go on the offense. It wasn't until it was clear that that wasn't going to be sufficient to contain the damage that he did the mea culpa. And he spent most of the debate, as far as I could tell, doing mea culpas too. But again, his instincts, his lack of character shone through when he was asked the question by the moderator, why should Virginia voters trust you in the wake of these despicable comments? And this was his answer.
I was held accountable by my party, and I deeply, deeply respect that. But what about when Donald Trump used incendiary language to incite a riot to try to overturn an election here in this country? What about when Winsome Sears used violent language about people who disagree with you and her and your extreme position on abortion? What about when John Reed shared Nazi porn? You haven't said a word. I've taken accountability for my mistakes. It's time you take accountability too.
So the whataboutism comes. The last refuge of the scoundrel. And frankly, the false comparisons. Trump on January 6th, really? That's the same. First of all, again, I mean, not to get into litigating this because it's so silly, but he didn't incite anything. And number one, and number two, what he said about people protesting peacefully, by the way, that's tantamount to you having murder fantasies about the speaker and his children. What? Whataboutism. But there's more of this coming because of this contretemps over what a bunch of heads of young Republican organizations around the country were saying to one another in these chat groups that were revealed and plastered all over the pages of Politico. By the way, just as a quick aside, Jay Jones held accountable by his party. No one has held accountable by his party. How? No one has called for him to resign. His running mate, the gubernatorial candidate, Abigail Spanberger, in her debate earlier this week with Winsome Sears, as we brought you the other day, she stood there looking straight ahead while Winsome Sears implored her to comment on the topic for more than a minute. It was bizarre. You have nothing to say on this, Abigail. You have nothing to say. He did this. He said that. You think this is, a legitimate expression of a legitimate manifestation of political discourse and so on and so forth. And she just stood there looking straight ahead like Winsome Sears wasn't there. It was not handled well, to say the least, which has further buoyed the chances of Winsome Sears. But so the idea held accountable by his party. No, he hasn't been. There was immediate calls for him to resign, but it was from organizations like the FOP in Virginia and, of course, Republicans. Not his slate mates, not the party at the national level. They'll roll the dice with him because what choice do they have? And so now there's this opportunity to muddy the waters. And that's what the left is busily doing in these closing weeks of those two races in particular. I'm talking about New Jersey and Virginia. And J.D. Vance has made this a little bit more complicated. So, I mean, first, the Politico story. Politico story, the headline is, "I love Hitler, quote unquote, leaked messages expose young Republicans' racist chat. Thousands of private messages reveal young GOP leaders joking about gas chambers, slavery, and rape. There are intemperate comments about black people, about Jewish people. It's complicated because some of this is not contextual, where context matters. I'm not trying to minimize it, but not all of the comments are the same. Some of them are totally indefensible. They shouldn't have been said, even in a private chat room and chat group, and somebody should have said, knock it off. We don't talk like that. And also, too, when he should be smart enough, a la Jay Jones, a legislator, when he sent those texts to a fellow legislator, should be smart enough as a party leader, knowing, and somebody actually said in one of the texts, if we ever had a leak of this chat, we would be cooked. Well, if that's what you're thinking, then, tamp down the silliness and restate what's going on here. But we can joke around and have fun, be edgelords, as the phraseology of the day goes. But we're not going to tolerate the use of pejoratives based on somebody's race or religion or what have you. It was a mistake. And by the way, despite what Vance said, these were not like quote unquote kids. Let's not infantilize a bunch of people, many of whom in these chat groups were like between 25 and 35. They're not children. Let's not do that. So this is becoming a problem because there's a division of opinion within Republican ranks as to whether to condemn them, like, say, Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin did, or to sort of slough it off as young people saying silly things as young people are wont to do, which is essentially what J.D. Vance did. I'll give you J.D. Vance's specific comments momentarily. Here's what Senator Markwayne Mullin from Oklahoma had to say about it.
There's zero, and everybody's been perfectly clear, there's zero room for this kind of behavior in politics as a whole, regardless of Republican or Democrat. But we hold our own accountable inside the Republican Party. We won't allow that to happen.
The vice president said essentially that these were kids making jokes and they shouldn't be canceled for it. Do you think that that's right?
Well, I didn't hear what the president's remarks is.
The vice president.
Vice president's remarks, but I would never let my kids joke like that. That's zero. There's a solid no. My grandfather fought in World War II. He went over on Omaha Beach. He saw the despicable things that the Nazis did to not just the Jewish people, but to other countries and other races along the way. He went into a concentration camp. He was a gentleman that you never ate Hershey's chocolate around because of the story that he tells about going inside a concentration camp. Yeah. And so it's not room to joke for me. It's a hard stop that you're not associated with me whatsoever if you think that's funny.
J.D. Vance, the reality is that kids do stupid things, especially young boys. Again, these were not teenagers. He said that edgy, offensive, stupid jokes is what kids do, and he doesn't want ours to be a country where doing so is cause to ruin their lives. Yeah, I mean, okay, but and he also tweeted out the Jay Jones tweets that were just being discussed in that Virginia AG's debate last night, commenting, "This is far worse than anything said in a college group chat, and the guy who said it could become the AG of Virginia. I refuse to join the pearl clutching when powerful people call for political violence." Yeah, I agree. There's no pearl clutching here in denouncing what Jay Jones said, what J.B. Pritzker says on a daily basis about federal law enforcement officers and so many other politicians, the references, the Nazi references and so forth, racists, terrorists. So, I mean, I'm not saying that the left has any standing here because they don't. I'm saying it's a question of how we police our own. They don't police their own. Do we want to not police our own? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line and text line. This is, opportunity again is knocking to distinguish between the two sides. And this is the point that our friend John Nolte made over at Breitbart. We are not the same. GOP condemns racist young Republican texts as Democrats stand by death wisher Jay Jones. Yes, that's true. That's what's generally happening with, this Vance exception that becomes a little bit problematic. He writes, does Nolte, I mean, this is not somebody who's a pearl clutcher either. Before we get all high and mighty, let's try to remember what we were like at that age. When I look back, especially in my high school years, the thought of my having access to social media at that time puts a little chill up my spine. I was an idiot who did and said many things I still regret. Thankfully, I was a child of the 80s, so my idiocy evaporated into the ether. But that's not an excuse. These idiots have been running around long enough to understand that Google is forever and that only an immature moron doesn't abide by the following rule. Never write down anything you don't want the whole world to see, because someday the whole world probably will. Does the Young Republicans National Federation not teach these kids this? What about their parents? What's more, when you're in a position of responsibility, such as the leader of a political group, you have a responsibility to more than just yourself. Yes, these kids need to be held accountable, made examples of, have their inexcusable words condemned, and then allowed to return to the fold after a sincere season of shame, repentance, and seasoning. At the same time, let's not forget who the real racist, child groomers, terrorists, and champions of violence are, the Democrat Party and their allies in the fake media. Yes, that's well said. I can sign on to that, but we don't want to operate in the gray area that the Pritzkers and the Brandon Johnsons and all these neo-Marxists like to operate in, which is where we neither condone nor condemn. We just sort of enable. No, we can't do that. But I also wanted to fold in something else. This is from a blogger, Substacker I routinely read, who goes under the pseudonym Bad Catitude. He's pretty good. He's not as silly as that pseudonym would lead you to believe. On the headline of Politico, the I Love Hitler headline, to pick the most incendiary text and blare it. Well, he actually posts the whole exchange where that comment was made. This is the exchange. Yeah, I've had some back and forth with the VC in Michigan, Vice Chair. Current chair is a deer in headlights. We have a call Wednesday. Many agree. He did say, my delegates I bring will vote for the most right-wing person. And then somebody responds, great, I love Hitler, with a smiley face. So in that context, making like a stupid joke, oh, you vote for the most right-wing person, oh, you're Hitlerian. First of all, Hitler was a leftist, National Socialist. That's leftism. So I wish they'd learn their history a little bit, as well as offer more elevated rhetoric and conversation. But, I mean, that's not the same thing as offering a declaration, I love Hitler, and waving, a swastika flag around. So that's why I say the context of some of this stuff matters, because it's being misrepresented purposefully, of course, because this is Politico. This is still to condemn all of those intemperate things that I described that were said. There is no defense, only apologies. And as John Nolte wrote, a little bit of shaming and a little bit of seasoning and coming back as a better person. That's the order of the day. And so this blogger I mentioned, Bad Catitude, he basically says, look, we've got two choices. And this is pretty straightforward. But since he put the work in to put together a persuasive commentary, let's give him some credit. The first choice is that my party right or wrong. We need to back those who vote with us because we must unify the way the left does if we want any hope of winning. The second choice is that we are individuals and must exercise our own judgment on with whom we wish to stand and call out and expel those whose values do not align with ours, with our camp, ours and our camps generally. And ultimately, he makes the salient point, which is this is about discernment. This is about discernment. You know, this is where adults have to use their judgment. And so the nature of the offense needs to be examined on a case-by-case basis. There are, of course, people whose beliefs and actions would or necessitate they be ejected. But the question is, so how do you decide? Well, you decide on the basis of the individual case. That's how you decide. You have to look at it in its totality and say, does this necessitate exile or something less, and act accordingly. And in this case, this necessitates, I would argue, repudiation and exile from their positions in the YR, organizational structure. And but it's, I mean, I'm not. Nobody's wanting to send them away to a gulag any more than anyone's sending Jay Jones away to a gulag. But I mean, Jay Jones shouldn't be the Attorney General of Virginia. These young people shouldn't be in the authority structure of the YRs after this. They need to learn a lesson. But now pull back and say these are not equivalent situations on the right and left. And as Nolte wrote in Breitbart, this is where the lines should get brighter so that people who don't really affiliate with either are clear on who condones ignorance, who condones violence, even through silence, the gray zone, and who does not. It's just a teachable moment to put an underline and an exclamation point about what we've already properly described as the left's particular pathologies, starting with the belief that political violence is the means to political ends. James in Dayton, Ohio.
How's it going, my friend?
Good, thanks.
So you've talked a lot about children and education, and my point, as I told your producer, is that once you get over Charlie Kirk's death and the assassination, you realize right now in this country we have a problem we have a void of leadership with young people, and in the absence of having a strong voice out there, anyone can be a spokesperson, and I'm concerned that that we do the right thing and get some people that are going to help our young people, shape our conservative values for our country as we move forward. And I think that we've got to find someone or people who can fill that void that we lost with Charlie's death.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Thanks for the call, James. And, this edgelords business, the idea is you say, sort of the most outrageous, shocking things and then you become a magnet. I mean, that's way too much of what's going on, just generally speaking. We're way too susceptible, even on the right, to shiny objects and to sort of the spectacle, no matter how coarse or unredeeming. And so I think that's right. I think there is a dearth of leadership, of like intelligent, thoughtful leadership. And that's not being some ninny either. I mean, with moral clarity and taking a proactive posture. I mean, spoiling for the fight, the intellectual and the rhetorical fight. This is not taking an inch back. This is actually taking a giant step forward, because we'll be much more effective if we do so in the vein that I'm describing. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Cunahan, president of Leaf Filter, gets a lot of interesting calls to his office when folks are ready to tackle their gutters.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/deal for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/deal. See representative for warranty details.
Well, that was a surprise. The HVAC tech just said our furnace apparently has a cracked heat exchanger, and it'll cost thousands.
Oh, you're kidding. He barely looked at it. Now he's pushing a huge repair? What should we do?
I don't really trust them. We need a second opinion. My brother Mark recommended Air Right Heating and Cooling. I looked them up and they seem legit. Great Google reviews. I'm sure they'd give us an honest assessment. He liked that they checked their carbon monoxide readings so he knows the air they're breathing is safe. And I guess it also gave a sense of how much life was left in their furnace.
I'd love that peace of mind. Plus, why spend a fortune on something we might not even need?
Get a second opinion from Air Right Heating and Cooling. Tell them AM 560 sent you and get $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling right now at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
AM 560. The Answer.
All right, coming up at 6:36, perfect segue from the conversation we were having. Our friend Charles Murray joins us, the great social scientist Charles Murray. Can science reckon with the human soul? We are more than our brains. Charles Murray, 6:36. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 57 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. An Illinois police officer was taken into custody by ICE agents after allegedly living in the U.S. illegally for a decade. Chief Border Patrol Agent Greg Bovino tells Fox's America Reports that this is unbelievable. The suspect is accused of overstaying a visa that expired in 2015. It's reported that in 2025 he earned over $200,000 working in Hanover, Illinois. A federal judge has temporarily blocked the U.S. Department of Agriculture from demanding the state of Illinois turn over information about recipients of Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program taxpayer subsidies. The USDA had requested disclosures of recipients since January of 2020. The state of Illinois argued that the information is, quote, highly sensitive data that includes immigration status. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again, not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Hugh Hewitt explains the importance of Israel.
Israel is America's #1 superpower ally on the planet. People used to think, oh, the special relationship is with England and the United Kingdom or with France. And good, they're allies. They're in NATO, but they've gone a little bit crazy. We need Israel. They're an intelligent superpower. They are a nuclear superpower, and they have the will and ability to project power around the globe.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
MyPillow is excited to announce they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you won't find anywhere else. My Slippers, only $39.98. Any color, any style. Regular $149.98. Now only $39.98. That's a $110 savings. Once they're gone for good. My Towels are finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And for the first and only time, get their limited edition premium MyPillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens $17.98, Kings only $19.98. Also, for a limited time, when your order is over $100, you'll receive free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. That number again is 800-489-0201. Promo code LIBERTY.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. Plus, 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty. Terms and conditions apply. Call for details. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
Hi, Dan Proft here. Data shows that boys make up more than 1/3 of those exploited in the sex trade. However, there are virtually no services available to male victims and survivors of trafficking and exploitation. They are often overlooked, ignored, and left without support. For 35 years, Emmaus has been on the front lines of an issue most of us can hardly imagine, helping men and boys in Chicago escape the nightmare of human trafficking and rebuild their lives. On Friday, November 1st, you're invited to attend an unforgettable evening at the Emmaus 35th Anniversary Gala at Fisherman's Inn in Elburn, Illinois. Together, they'll celebrate faith, freedom, and restoration with a beautifully catered dinner, an inspiring program, and a silent auction, all to support the mission of rescuing and restoring survivors. This is your chance to do something that truly matters. Reserve your seat today, or if you can't attend, make a life-changing donation at streets.org. That's streets.org. Emmaus is restoring lives. Let's help them keep going. Visit streets.org.
Ross Shaw talks about building income in retirement.
You know, you can actually structure it in a way that have that $4,000 a month coming in the door every single month. So you don't have to look at the stock ticker and say, oh, the stock market's up today, stock market's down. You still got that $4,000 a month, and having that opportunity to take the vacations and do all the fun things in retirement that you always dream to do.
Unleash your wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Progressive Insurance. Not only does Progressive let you bundle your insurance, they also give you round-the-clock protection. Quote today at Progressive.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Doing okay on the Eden both ways from Lake Cook to Montrose. It's 15 minutes inbound, outbound is 13. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange is 18, outbound is 13. The Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 18 minutes. Outbound, a little bit slow because the center lane is blocked at Holman Avenue with a stall. The inbound Stevenson, not too bad from the Tri-State to Lakeshore, 16 minutes. Outbound is 18. Slow on the inbound Dan Ryan. It's stop and go between the Bishop Ford merge and 79th Street with police activity at 79th Street. No delays on the outbound side. This report is sponsored by Aleve. Life doesn't wait, and neither should you. Aleve can help you deal with pain less throughout the day. With just one pill, Aleve lasts up to 12 hours. Don't let those aches and pains hold you back from doing what's important to you. Use as directed. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be breezy and warm with clouds in the morning, then some sun later. Expect a high of 76. Tonight it will turn cloudy and warm with a few late showers. The low will be 64. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and there's this internet parable that is making the rounds again, in part because, thanks to AI, it's being voiced, in quotation marks, by like Denzel Washington, Jordan Peterson. There's different versions of it, so it feels new and it feels like it's important because they're this AI-generated voices that sound like people that you know. And, you know, internet parable, they don't quite rise to the quality of biblical parables, but nonetheless, they have, you know, pop culture cachet. The parable is about what happens after your funeral. Take a listen.
Do you know what happens after your funeral? In a few short hours, the crying will die down, and your family will be busy making arrangements for food or drink for your friends and relatives. Some of your relatives will start discussing current events over coffee, and some people will call your family to tell them that they can't make it in person because of an emergency. Some people will secretly start making travel arrangements because life is just too short. And someone in your family will start arguing that they contributed more financially to the funeral than others did. Eventually, the crowd is going to go their separate ways. And in the coming days and weeks, your cell phone might ring on occasion from people who didn't realize that you've died. Your employer will begin to search for your replacement. In a few days, your children will go back to work because their bereavement leave has run out. In a month, your spouse will be watching a comedy on TV and start to laugh. You'll be forgotten at an astonishing pace. Everyone's life will go back to normal. There'll be new elections, new scandals, and the traffic on the daily commute will be the same. And the Super Bowl will go on just as planned. Meanwhile, the first anniversary of your passing will be celebrated in a grand manner. But in the blink of an eye, years are going to have gone by, and there'll be very few people left to remember you. One day, looking at old photos, a friend might remember you. In your community, of the hundreds of people you became acquainted with, only one person may remember you and think about you sometime. Now tell me, if people will forget you so easily, then who are you living your life for? Who are you worried about? You spent your whole life worrying about what people will think about you. They don't. And they won't. So live your life for you.
Live your life for yourself, of course, got cut out there. I mean, it's depressing. I get that part about it. But, you know, it seems to insinuate like living your life as some navel-gazing solipsist that's just concerned with, you know, sort of pleasure and pay no mind to other regarding impacts. Yeah. Voddie Baucham, the recently deceased Christian apologist, preacher, really good. He offered this riff on why he fights this spiritual war against the woke, as we were just discussing.
I go to war against this woke tyranny, number one, because there is a God who created the world, and he has spoken. And fallen man does not get to disagree with the God who has spoken. And I go to war against this woke tyranny because, number two, I love fallen men enough to tell them the truth. There is a God. He has spoken. He created man in his image, created him male and female. He gave us the beauty of the marital relationship as a living, breathing picture of the communion within the Godhead and of the relationship between Christ and his bride for whom he laid down his life. May God grant us grace to believe this truth, to proclaim this truth, and to reflect this truth so that a lost and dying world can hear it, flee from sin, and find salvation in Christ.
Yeah, I wish Voddie Baucham would go viral the way that some of these internet parables do. Because it seems to me it all redounds to the age-old question. You either believe in God or you believe you're God. And that what happens after your funeral thing feels to me very much like a call to believe you're God. Which I think is a pretty good segue to Charles Murray and his new work. Charles Murray, of course, is a famed social scientist. You know him from such celebrated works as Losing Ground, The Bell Curve, Coming Apart. His new book is Taking Religion Seriously. He is the Hayek Emeritus Scholar at the American Enterprise Institute. Charles Murray, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Dan.
So you wrote recently about this in the Wall Street Journal. I read this piece you wrote in the Wall Street Journal. I mean, not about this specifically, but about this generally, the idea that humankind is more than our brains and our material desires.
That's right. I want, though, to say something about that parable you played. I listened to that, and I say, does this guy have no kids? Does he have no wife? Yeah. Doesn't he understand that for my father and mother died years and years ago, and they are still living presences for both me and my siblings and also their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I listened to that, and I said, this is not a person who has thought very seriously about what he wants to leave behind when he dies. And what you want to leave behind are what's called the obituary virtues, not your resume virtues. It has nothing to do with how much money you have. It's what kind of person you've been. Anyway, that's not necessarily religious. I just think that's a silly way of looking at death and how to measure the importance of human life.
And it's almost, I mean, if I could just digress with you for a moment too, it's almost sort of like, it's like a celebritized version of life. Like if I'm not remembered by everybody that I communicated with, if I don't still have sort of a preeminent standing in their minds and their daily lives, then somehow my life was misspent because I didn't do enough to make sure I'm permanently imprinted in their minds, and that means that you're living for recognition as opposed to living to, well, in my view, to give glory to God.
And I had exactly the same reaction. And look, I am not famous in the ordinary sense of the word. Nobody comes up to me when I'm eating a meal in a restaurant and asks for my autograph, but there has occasionally been times that people do know who I am in that kind of limited fame. And one of the things that most quickly came across was the first couple of times it happened that people said, oh, they're happy to meet me because they've heard so much about me. The first few times, it's pretty cool. And it gets old real fast. And I'm sure you've had the same kind of reaction. And what you realize is that fame, in the sense of people knowing who you are, is really trivial in comparison to the personal relationships you have with people in your lives.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. Well, this piece, this book, Taking Religion Seriously, I mean, you've had an evolution on this matter of religion because you went to college. So they tried to beat it out of you, and then you came back to it.
Well, yeah. So, look, when I got to college, maybe you had the same experience. I learned smart people don't believe that stuff anymore. And it wasn't they tried to persuade me of that. It was just in the air that it was taken for granted. Oh, that nobody really believes the Bible anymore and that sort of thing. And it was a long story, Dan, which I tell in the book. It's a very autobiographical book with my wife who set an example that I couldn't ignore, and I realized I was missing out. So the book is it's not a handbook, but it is written for people like me for whom religion was simply not important for a long time, and how I finally came to realize it is important after all.
And the piece in the Journal was interesting too, because one of the ways you came at this, that sort of this formulation, were more than our brains, and science is catching up to this reality, and it's going to create a paradigm shift in our understanding of the human condition, and ultimately that human beings have souls. You talked about these near-death experiences and the lucidity incidents that come with near-death experiences, and what that tells us about what we don't maybe fully understand yet.
Yeah, I think that that science is in the situation right now I should say that neuroscience is in the same situation that physics was a century ago. Namely, there are oddities and anomalies that current theory can't explain. And I think that the evidence that consciousness can exist independently of the brain, which is something I did not believe at all until a few years ago, I think that evidence just has to be taken seriously. And the near-death experiences is one source of that, of which there are a lot that have been carefully studied. And the same thing with what's called terminal lucidity, where people with advanced dementia, a day or two before their death, are back. They're back with their personalities and their memories, not for very long, and then they die. But how is that happening if they have brains that are physiologically incapable of organized thought? That science has to start taking that stuff seriously.
Another piece I read that folded into the book is and this is sort of your journey too, but I didn't think I needed God, and I turned out to be wrong. I mean, I think a lot of people listening probably know somebody in their life like that, if they're not that person themselves. And so the epiphany, the conversion experience, so to speak, what was it for you?
I'll tell you that I'm trying to point out to people there doesn't have to be a conversion moment. I'm kind of the equivalent of tone deaf when it comes to a lot of spiritual issues. And it doesn't mean that the music isn't beautiful. It means I have a hard time with my skill set of accessing it. And so instead of a road to Damascus sudden revelation, people like me, and there are lots of people like me, can find themselves very slowly over a period of time getting moved off an unreflective secularism and beginning to tap into this wealth of wisdom and inspiration that is in the great religious traditions, and for me, most powerfully in Christianity.
Right, and one of Christianity's best ambassadors, I think, had an impact on you, and I'm talking about the scholarship of C.S. Lewis.
Oh, well, that's the first thing I would say to listeners who say, gee, Murray sounds pretty much like me. Go read Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, because I've got news for you. You will, in the first few pages, realize this is a very smart guy who still believes that stuff and can ask you questions in ways that will stick in your mind forever after. Mere Christianity is the book, and it's wonderful.
And ironically, of course, the C.S. Lewis's story is not dissimilar to yours in terms of where he started versus where he ended. He wasn't always C.S. Lewis as we know him today.
It was for him, I think, somewhat faster experience than it was for me. But he went from being an absolutely classic secular atheist. I was an agnostic. I wasn't hostile to religion. I just didn't think it was irrelevant to my life. And C.S. Lewis was much more aggressively an atheist in his youth. And he ends up being the 20th century's most successful writer in bringing people to Christianity.
And you mentioned your wife's impact. Can you develop that a little bit more?
Sure. She had our first child in 1985. And after a few months, she realized that she loved that child, as she put it, more than evolution required. She understands evolution. She understands women who don't love their babies don't pass their genes on. She felt that she was a conduit for something larger than that. So whereas I'm tone deaf to a lot of spiritual issues, she is she can fully appreciate the music. And it was that example, watching her over a period of years become more engaged in Quakerism, as it happens, and how that was enriching her life, that made me say to myself, you know what, you need to participate in this. And Dan, it's one more case of women socializing the men, thank God, and bringing us along.
Yes, no, that's right. They're supposed to be a civilizing influence, and we need them more now than ever. The taking religion seriously, so that's the name of the book. So since you've been taking religion seriously, how has that impacted your intellectual pursuits, your thinking?
Well, I'm trying to come up with a quick answer to that. A lot of times I have found that I didn't realize I was changing my beliefs while it was going on, and I suddenly recognize how far I've moved. But one of the simplest things that I guess people who are growing older should know is that I'm 82, and I've been getting old without fearing death now ever since I got involved in this. Whereas when I was in my 40s and 50s, I would have moments of dread as I thought of oblivion and I'm dead and I'm no longer in the universe. And that has gone away. And that is no small thing, you know? And also, whereas I'm not a classic Christian in an Orthodox sense, I am convinced that the universe was created intentionally. And I think that the phrase God is love and the sense of God's grace, I think those are real concepts. So people like me may not have the same joys that other people can find in religion, but what I've just described is a lot.
Charles Murray is the Hayek Emeritus Scholar at the American Enterprise Institute. The new book, pick it up, Taking Religion Seriously. Charles Murray, always an honor to talk to you. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And Charles Murray joined us in the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago businesses. Your phone, internet, and IT should work well 24/7. But when it doesn't, who are you calling? At Overseas Help Desk? If you want clear, reliable local experts, consider Access One. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One has you covered. Access One is Chicago-owned, Chicago-run, and serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore and everywhere in between. We're rated top 5% in customer satisfaction, a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business, and trusted by law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. Let's talk about making your IT work well. Call 800-804-8333 or visit AccessOneInc.com. That's AccessOneInc.com. Tech made personal, locally.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank that cares about your business and is invested in your success. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Chris Johnson, CEO of Classic Cinemas and proud customer of Signature Bank. We are a local family-owned business that is known for free refills on all sizes of popcorn, soft drinks, and ices. With over 9,000 heated recliners in 16 locations, we marry the traditions of the past with today's state-of-the-art technology. Throw in a 30-minute guarantee and an after-movie mint, and you have the perfect night out. As we strive to make every guest our priority, Signature Bank does the same with their customers. The team at Signature Bank is interested in taking my company forward. They have all the resources and solutions of the big banks, but they customize their offerings to meet my business needs. The customer always comes first with Signature Bank.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 7:07, we'll talk to former federal prosecutor Joseph Moreno about, obviously the Bolton indictment, but also want to get his reaction to this rare interview that Jack Smith gave to Bob Mueller henchman Andrew Weissman. Really interesting, the contentions that Smith offers. We'll do that at 7:07. It's now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
He keeps trying to end Russia's war in Ukraine. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
Last week, over 7,000 people were killed. That's ridiculous.
So later today, President Trump will meet with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, who's been asking for more American support from air defense to advance Tomahawk missiles. The president says we need those, too.
We can't deplete for our country, so, they're very vital. They're very powerful.
Russia's leader has said providing Tomahawks would be a serious escalation. Vladimir Putin had another phone call with the president yesterday. The two leaders will get together again soon, like in Alaska in August. And Fox's Peter Doocy reports at the White House he's
planning a summit with Zelensky and Putin within 2 weeks.
We may do something where we're separate but equal.
The host, Hungary, whose president, Viktor Orban, posted preparations for the USA-Russia Peace Summit are underway. Hungary is the island of peace.
A former Trump national security advisor turned Trump critic, John Bolton, who the president calls a bad guy, has been indicted on 18 charges
related to his alleged retention and transmission of classified documents. His own attorney admitted that he kept some of these classified documents. Bolton charged not only with keeping top secret classified information, but sharing it with family members. The Justice Department says Bolton sent diary-like entries about his workdays at the White House and shared information classified up to the top secret SCI level, the highest level.
Fox's David Spun. Bolton may appear in a Maryland court this morning. In a statement, he wrote his conduct was lawful, and the case is a Trump abuse of power and attempt to intimidate. There was a debate last night in the closely watched mayor's race in New York City.
He literally has never had a job.
That's former Governor Andrew Cuomo swiping at the frontrunner, Democrat socialist Zoran Mondani.
This is not a job for someone who has no management experience to run 300,000 people, no financial experience to...
Now Mondani went after Cuomo.
And if we have a health pandemic, then why would New Yorkers turn back to the governor who sent seniors to their death in nursing homes?
America's listening.
Good morning. It is 57 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. A federal indictment has been handed down to a man here in Chicago who's accused of soliciting the murder of a U.S. Border Patrol chief. Fox's Jeff Manasseh reports.
A federal grand jury indicting Juan Espinoza Martinez, a Mexican national here illegally, who prosecutors say via social media solicited the murder of Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino, who told Fox News last week the mission remains.
We're coming, and if you're an illegal alien or especially an illegal alien gang member, I would self-deport now, or we'll do it for you.
DHS says Martinez is a high-ranking member of the Latin King street gang, something his lawyer denies. The agency also says his indictment comes amid an escalation of attacks on federal agents and credible intelligence that criminal organizations in Mexico are continuing to offer bounties on agents taking part in ICE action here. In Chicago, Jeff Manasseh, Fox News.
2 people were injured during a shootout at a Walmart in Evergreen Park yesterday. According to reports, 2 men were walking into the store when an argument broke out. The suspect then escalated it by pulling out a gun and began shooting. He hit the man at least 5 times. A female victim was also struck. She suffered a gunshot wound to her foot. The suspect has been caught, but the investigation is continuing. The Illinois Department on Aging says residents with Medicare can get free help comparing health and drug plan options for this year's open enrollment period, which began on October 15th. That runs through December 7th. Seniors are encouraged to call or visit one of the senior health insurance program sites that are located across the state. News is a service of Salem Surround, providing your business with industry-leading digital marketing strategy designed to surround your target audience and drive action. Go to surroundchicago.com today. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, happening on Saturday, November 8th in Weston, Chicago, Northwest, and Itasca. This year, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, along with Dan Proft, Sean Thompson, John Anthony, and many more. This event will sell out fast, so get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Lutheran Life Communities, Virago, and by Senior Helpers of Naperville.
Our veterans are our heroes. They answer the call to defend our freedom, putting their lives on the line for our nation. But today, thousands of these brave men and women are facing something no hero should ever face: food insecurity. That's where Farm to Veteran comes in. Through the Fulcrum Farm Foundation, this remarkable organization delivers farm-fresh, nutritious food directly to veterans in need through veteran services and organizations. From greenhouse-grown produce to eggs, they're ensuring our heroes have access to the high-quality food they deserve. But Farm to Veteran can't do it alone. They need our help. Your financial contribution directly supports their mission to feed more veterans across their growing network of partner farms nationwide. And there's another way you can make a difference. Join them at their upcoming community events. Visit farm2veteran.com today. That's farm, the number 2, veteran.com, farm2veteran.com, to donate or learn about events near you, because those who served our country shouldn't have to wonder where their next meal is coming from. Let's stand with those who stood for us. And to do so, support farm2veteran.com. That's farm, the number 2, veteran.com.
You ever wonder why Verizon charges twice as much as Pure Talk for the same basic service? Think it might have something to do with the fact that Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotion? That's billion with a B. Yeah, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. That's why they can offer unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Save an additional 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say the words Micro. That's pound 250, Micro.
It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock is here with tips to help protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication on your accounts, report phishing, and update your software on all your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, LifeLock is your best choice. LifeLock not only alerts you to suspicious uses of your personal information, but also fixes identity theft, guaranteed, or your money back. So stay smart, stay safe, and stay protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use the promo code BECK. Terms to apply.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere. Delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Xumo Play.
You okay down there?
I tripped over old china boxes in the basement, and now I'm stuck behind the ping pong table we never use.
I'm coming to the rescue, if I can find you.
You know, if we finished this basement, we could actually enjoy this space.
I think it's time to call Forever Remodeling.
Forever Remodeling turns disaster zones into game rooms, guest bedrooms and bathrooms, home theaters, a custom space just for you. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Still looking okay on the Eden inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 15 minutes. Outbound, 16. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Burnt Interchange is 30 minutes. Getting real slow both ways now. Outbound is 33. The Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 32 minutes. Outbound is 25. The Stevenson inbound slows down from the Tri-State to Lakeshore, 36 minutes. Outbound is 27. Now inbound on the Dan Ryan, that is stop and go between the Bishop Ford merge in 79th Street with police activity at 79th Street. There's also a stall off on the right shoulder in the express lanes of the inbound Dan Ryan right after 35th Street. No delays on the outbound side, and you want to watch out for a crash on Route 53 northbound at Northwest Highway. Delays go back to the Jane Addams. This report is a service of Quick Delivery Service. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be breezy and warm with clouds in the morning, then some sun later. Expect a high of 76. Tonight it will turn cloudy and warm with a few late showers. The low will be 64. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. And Jack Smith was with his buddy Andrew Weissmann. Jack Smith, the former Trump prosecutor, sitting down with Andrew Weissmann, who basically ran the Russian collusion probe, because as we found out during his testimony before Congress, Bob Mueller was not necessarily of sound mind at the time, so necessarily for at least some of that multi-year saga. Andrew Weissmann was the henchman. He was the driving force behind that conspiracy of fools that perpetrated fraud in the American people. So those two veterans of the Department of Justice sat down, and Jack Smith opining on the Comey prosecution and just generally speaking offering his bird's eye view to how the Department of Justice works. And of course, much like John Candy, Ox in Stripes, suggested that, you don't know if anybody notices, but he had a bit of a weight problem. No, nobody noticed. Jack Smith also says, we don't have a political problem in the Department of Justice, or at least we didn't, because we don't do politics there. No, of course you don't. On Comey.
This latest prosecution of the former director of the FBI. There's a process to secure an indictment. There's a process of predication, having some evidence before you do that. And again, I only know what I see myself in the media, but the career prosecutors, the apolitical prosecutors who analyzed this said there wasn't a case. And so they brought somebody in who had never been a criminal prosecutor on days' notice to secure an indictment a day before the statute of limitations ended. That just reeks of lack of process.
Yeah, except that's not what happened. I mean, it's a stylized version of what happened, counselor. Far be it from me to suggest that Jack Smith is inventing a politically convenient description of those events. What we understand from actual reporting on this, if you believe in such things, Jack, is that there was disagreement under the previous U.S. attorney as to whether or not to move forward with the case. There was disagreement. And the newly installed acting U.S. attorney help settle that disagreement in a different direction. But it wasn't one for one. One person wasn't going to bring it, and that was the consensus opinion. The next person is going to bring it. That was the consensus opinion. There was no consensus opinion. There was a disagreement among similarly situated prosecutors. Okay. So nice try. And, of course, very concerned about these attacks being launched against nonpartisan presidential appointees. Talk about an oxymoron.
I think the attacks on public servants, particularly nonpartisan public servants, I think it has a cost for our country that is incalculable. And I think that it's hard to communicate to folks how much that is going to cost us. If you think getting rid of the people who know most about national security is going to make our country safer, you do not know anything about national security. And that's happening throughout the department. It makes me concerned. Nothing like what we see now has ever gone on.
What does that even mean? It goes on every 4 years, or certainly every 4 years when there's a change in administration. What are you talking about? Are you old enough, Jack, to remember when President Obama was elected and demanded the resignation of all the U.S. attorneys so that he could appoint and get confirmed his own people? Of course. So what are you talking about? The great repository of national security know-how and intelligence was the Department of Justice under Merrick Garland, and no one can be moved lest we undermine our national security. It doesn't seem to be playing out that way, does it? This guy. Prosecutions like his, witch hunts, some might say, against President Trump, they're not the problem.
The problem is not prosecuting high officials who did something wrong when you do it according to the processes of law in your country. It's the retaliation. That's the problem. And that's the thing that we should be preventing.
So no consequences, or only the targets that we say are legitimate targets and not the targets that you say. Prosecutorial discretion for me, but not for thee. I mean, if you had somebody other than Weissman there, it could have actually been a fun interview, a fun back and forth, but he was just there to platform these bromides. And again, just a general statement of principle on this. If you think that changing out any national security personnel at the Department of Justice improves our national security, you don't know anything about national security. And if you think politics plays any role in in federal prosecutions?
The people on my special counsel team were like that. The idea that politics played a role in who worked on that case or who got chosen is ludicrous. And Andrew, and this is another thing that I think if you're not inside the U.S. Department of Justice, the idea that politics would play a role in big cases like this, it's absolutely ludicrous, and it's totally contrary to my experience as a prosecutor.
Totally ludicrous. The idea that politics would play any role in the multiple prosecutions of a president of the United States, former president of the United States. The idea that politics would play any role in a multi-year-long collusion investigation predicated on lies and basically fraudulent intelligence assessments that were concocted for the purpose of this investigation. The idea that politics played any role, like anybody was targeting Trump, for example, that's just crazy talk. Somebody else who's been inside, like Jack Smith, is Joseph Moreno, former federal prosecutor at the Department of Justice in the National Security Division, a former staff member with the FBI's 9/11 Review Commission, and a U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's get his view. Joseph Moreno, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, really appreciate you having me on. And I'm joining you from the Northern Virginia, just minutes away from the courthouse where James Comey was indicted and arraigned.
Oh, very good. Don't forget to vote, in the upcoming election. If you're a Virginia resident, that is.
You're not kidding. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Jack Smith, you've been inside the Department of Justice. Is he channeling your view as well? Politics doesn't play any role in these things, and the attack on these are nonpartisan presidential appointees. I mean, there's just any hint of or suggestion of partisanship is just offends the senses of Jack Smith, as does the notion that anybody would be turned out of the Department of Justice when a new president comes to town.
Yeah, it was really difficult for me to sit through this hour and 20-minute interview of Jack Smith and kind of listen to this nonsense. And you set the stage well, right? So the interviewer is Andrew Weissman, whose claim to fame is basically running Operation Crossfire Hurricane. We refer to it as Russiagate, which was a complete farce, but ran on for 2 years before Bill Barr shut it down. So he's there lobbing softballs at Jack Smith. Meanwhile, this is taking place on a college campus in London. So you couldn't ask for a more friendly venue for Jack Smith, right? And if you were expecting anything interesting or any insight into his investigation, you'd be disappointed. Basically, he spends most of the hour and 20 minutes on this sort of the script that former prosecutors are taught to say. And so sort of, oh, shucks, I'm just sort of I'm just a law enforcement guy.
Just a country lawyer. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not political, and I move forward with, neither fear nor favor, and I just look at the evidence and I follow the evidence. And, you have to okay, that sounds great, but when you look at his 2 years as special counsel, you can't help but laugh. That was it was ridiculous what happened there. And yet he's sticking by his story. Yeah, pretty unpersuasive.
Did you see, by the way, just sticking on the topic of Smith, do you see any legal exposure for him for anything, at least that we know of, that's in the public domain that he did in the multiple prosecutions that he pursued?
I think he covered himself well. One of the few nice things I'm willing to say about him is that it did appear at least his investigation didn't suffer from a lot of leaks. You can't say that about Crossfire Hurricane and Andrew Weissman, which leaked constantly to friendly venues like CNN and others. So I don't know that Smith will be criminally exposed. That being said, I can't imagine anybody would want to have anything to do with him. And if you recall...
Sorry to interrupt, but what about the surveillance of those U.S. senators and that one Republican representative as well, and the basis to obtain those phone records? We don't really know the details of that yet, but we know the outcome.
We don't know a lot of the details. If I had to guess, I would say Smith is savvy enough that he'd have some kind of cover. But yes, I absolutely want to learn more about that. Crossfire Hurricane had an incident where an FBI attorney lied on a FISA warrant in order to obtain phone records of Trump campaign insiders. And there was, unfortunately, very little consequence. I think the guy had his bar license suspended for a year here in Washington, D.C. So I don't know if Smith is really going to face any consequences. But if you recall, when he popped up, he wasn't a household name. But for those of us who kind of follow this, Smith's claim to fame before he was special counsel here was that he, under the Obama Justice Department, prosecuted our Virginia governor, Bob McDonnell, who was a popularly elected Republican governor. Smith prosecutes him hardcore for effectively bribery. He takes McDonnell out of office. He resigns. The guy gets convicted. 2 years later, the Supreme Court unanimously overturns the conviction.
Right.
So here's Smith, who stretched the bribery laws to their breaking point, ruins this guy's governorship, ruins his life, and the Supreme Court, they're rarely unanimous on anything, and they throw this out. So that's who Jack Smith is, just coming onto the scene right here, is this overzealous prosecutor who's willing to just stretch the law as far as he can take it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that encapsulates him for sure. I mean, it can't be said enough. I want to get your view on the other development that occurred yesterday, which was, of course, the indictment of former NSA and U.S. Ambassador to the UN, John Bolton. Here's what Trey Gowdy, former federal prosecutor and state prosecutor, Trey Gowdy had to say on Hannity's program last night. Just wanted you to hear how serious he thinks the case is and the 18 counts of mishandling classified information that have been entered against Bolton, and get your reaction to this, see if you agree.
Sean, I cannot tell you and your viewers how serious the information that John Bolton both disseminated to his wife and daughter, that's who the unindicted co-conspirators are, and retained. It is the gravest secrets that this country has. It's the kind of information that gets people killed. Millions of documents over years, and he's out there lecturing, whether it's Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, or anyone else. There are so many clips in this indictment of him having notice and knowledge of how to handle material. All the while he was breaking it. I cannot stress to you the job that Kash Patel and John Lee Ratcliffe did in bringing this case to indictment. The gravest possible danger could have been done to this country, and may well have been done because Iran accessed his email at his home. This is very, very serious.
Joseph Moreno, what do you think?
Well, I think there's real exposure here. And Bolton represents, in many ways, the sort of arrogance of the inner city D.C. Insider class, who very often feel they are above the law. And so they spend time in government, they come out, they write books, they make a lot of money in the private sector, and they really feel in many cases they can kind of do what they want. And as far as classified information, we've seen people really mishandle this, ranging from Hillary Clinton to Mike Pence to Bolton himself. And remember, only the president can declassify information. So in Donald Trump's case, he actually had the power to declassify the documents that he was accused of improperly mishandling. Bolton wasn't president. Hillary wasn't president. Mike Pence wasn't president. And, of course, Joe Biden had his own classified document scandal following his vice presidency. So you get this kind of recurring model. And so it won't surprise me one bit if Bolton mishandled information both directly in the form of documents he was not supposed to take out of a SCIF, or basically a secure facility, or if he basically shorthanded classified information, which is just as bad. So basically, if you copy information off a classified document, you've now basically created a classified document. So if you share it with people, if you send it on your AOL email account, which, by the way, I don't know who uses AOL anymore, but
John Bolton does.
If you do that sort of thing, he sure does. If you do that sort of thing, then that's exactly what the mishandling of classified information laws are meant to prohibit.
Well, right, and so the the argument, and Jonathan Turley sort of tackled this too, but the argument that some may have, just in the public discussing this, well, look at all those people, and everybody does it. Well, everybody does it is not an exculpatory argument, so that's not going to fly.
It's hard to stomach this sort of thing, and I kind of see commentators on the left these days when they comment on the James Comey and the Letitia James and now the John Bolton indictments, and they say, well, two wrongs don't make a right. And if your argument is that Trump was unfairly mistreated by James herself and Alvin Bragg and Jack Smith, then how can you say these cases aren't similarly politically motivated? And I'd say, look, I kind of say the reverse. If you are out there just championing the cases against Donald Trump for the 2 years he had to grind through the lawfare that he faced, and you kind of said out loud over and over again that everyone has to be held accountable, and if a grand jury finds probable cause and there's an indictment, then the case must be righteous, and no one is above the law. Well, then how can you not say that now? And so I think I kind of laugh at the hypocrisy of many of those who had absolutely just thrilled about the cases against Donald Trump, and now they're kind of folding their arms and saying, well, it's just being vindictive, and how dare you bring these cases.
Well, it's the same, sort of prosecutorial discretion for me, but not for thee. Lawfare for me, but not for thee. It's that's going to be a tough argument to make out. That at least that's persuasive to the Trump Department of Justice. Clearly, something else though too in this Bolton case that provides an added wrinkle, and it seems to me an evidentiary problem for Bolton, is the fact that there was a Trump administration civil suit against Bolton to try to prevent him from releasing that book. They claimed that he was going to disclose national information that could jeopardize national security, which is why they didn't want the book published. The judge in the case, Royce Lamberth, declined to go so far as to not publish, to enjoin the publication of the book. But he did say, I think this actually does jeopardize national security if this were disseminated. So, he's on, as Gowdy mentioned, he's on notice several times, including actual federal litigation.
That's right. There was litigation. There was an investigation in the final year of the first Trump administration. And of course, unsurprisingly, one of the first things that President Biden did upon taking office was kill the investigation of John Bolton. So this is something that has been in the process for a while, and it really now should be seen through. And if, in fact, Bolton is guilty of what he's being accused of, it shouldn't be a difficult case to prove. Either he had this information or he didn't. Either he shorthanded this in notes or in emails or in sharing it with people, or he didn't. So if the evidence is there, this is not going to be a tough one to prove.
Joseph Moreno is a former federal prosecutor with the Department of Justice and the National Security Division, former staff member with the FBI's 9/11 Review Commission, and a U.S. Army combat veteran. Joseph Moreno, thanks so much for joining us. As always, appreciate
it. Dan, thanks so much.
And Joseph Moreno joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
According to a 2022 FBI statistic, less than 0.01% of all altercations require a lethal response. Now, think about that. Now, we all have a safety plan. If you don't, you need one that includes firearms. That's only necessary less than 1% of the time. So what is your new plan for 99.99% of the time? Well, you can start with the Byrna Launcher, BYRNA. It's the less lethal launcher that can de-escalate any situation for 99% of any altercations. Now, the new Byrna Compact Launcher is the smallest, less lethal option to date. It's concealable anywhere. It fires powerful kinetic rounds, tear gas, pepper spray. It also can stop an attacker for up to 40 minutes. No background checks, legal in all 50 states. It ships straight to your door. Byrna, because your first line of defense should always be less lethal. Just go to BYRNA.com today and find the right launcher for you and your family to be safe. That's BYRNA.com.
You've heard me talk about Northridge for years, but now I want you to hear from one of their recent graduates. His name is TJ Gorman. He just graduated second in his class at the Marine Corps Basic Training. this is what he said about Northridge. I was blessed to attend Northridge, not only for the education, but for the values and principles my mentors instilled within me. The school taught us what it meant to be a leader and lead through example, hard work, humility, and empathy. I thank God for Northridge. That's what makes Northridge Prep great for young men. The students are called to excellence to become true leaders, and these boys want to go to school each day. They love Northridge because they can be free to learn, to grow, and to be challenged. There's a real spirit of adventure on campus that you've just got to experience for yourself to appreciate, at least to fully appreciate. For nearly 50 years, they've partnered with parents like no other school in the Chicagoland area. Today in our nation, we need more Northridge graduates to lead the way as men of intellect and character who love God, guys like T.J. Gorman, men who put their values first, as we were discussing earlier in the program, given the controversy surrounding a bunch of young Republican leaders who disgrace themselves. This is what we're talking about. Northridge Prep has an open house. It's this Sunday, like 2 days from now, October 19th, 1 p.m., for boys in grades 6 through 12. You can still register at northridgeprep.org. Again, the open house is this coming Sunday, 1 o'clock, and you can register at northridgeprep.org.
The guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Cunahan, president of Leaf Filter, gets a lot of interesting calls to his office when folks are ready to tackle their gutters.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/deal for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/deal. See representative for warranty details.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 7:37, hey, maybe that Hanover Park cop can go become the school superintendent in Des Moines. That's 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 58 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is looking for creative ways to fund the city's budget, including instituting a social media tax. Johnson's social media amusement and responsibility, or SMART tax, would generate more than $30 million for mental health services. The mayor also is proposing a corporate head tax on the top 3% of Chicago businesses, increased taxes for tech companies, and a new hemp tax. There are no property tax increases in that proposed budget. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says he's a lucky man after reporting $1.4 million in gambling winnings from one trip to Vegas.
Pritzker told reporters he likes to play cards and got lucky on a trip to Las Vegas.
I mean, it was all, it all happened over one trip. And it was just, incredibly lucky.
Republican State Representative C.D. Davidsmeyer agreed Pritzker is a lucky guy, beginning with inheriting his wealth.
This news update is quickly delivered to you by Quick Delivery Service. Why are you sitting in Friday traffic? Time is money. When you need your important items delivered quickly, Quick Delivery Service will be there to pick it up and take it to its destination. Go to quickdelivery.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, happening on Saturday, November 8th at Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. This year, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, along with Dan Proft, Sean Thompson, John Anthony, and many more. This event will sell out fast, so get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Nauman and Associates, Scott Tucker Solutions Incorporated, and by Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago.
I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. You're an adult, right? But you should know gold has increased over 80% in the past 2 years. Yeah, 80%. So if you think stuffing money under your mattress or riding the roller coaster of Wall Street is your retirement plan, well, I wouldn't want to be banking on that strategy. It's time to diversify your savings and retirement assets into physical metals like gold and silver. That's where Advantage Gold comes in. When you call 800-741-GOLD, we'll send you a free gold kit that explains how rolling over your IRA or 401k into gold could not only supercharge your retirement, but maybe even help preserve your sanity. And let's be real, when's the last time you ever heard someone say, "Hey, sell all your gold"? Exactly. Never. The number's simple, 800-741-4653. And if you can spell, even better, that's 800-741-GOLD. Always consult with your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-741-GOLD.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. Canterbury Cathedral is the oldest cathedral in England. Over the centuries, pilgrims like those in Chaucer's Canterbury Tales have worn grooves into its stone steps from ascending them on their knees. But last week, the Church of England decided to allow the cathedral's interior to be covered in graffiti, supposedly to reflect the voices of marginalized communities. It's hard to see how defacing a sacred space benefits anyone. In fact, it seems pretty insulting to suggest that vandalism is the best way to honor minority communities. What it signals, more than anything, is the Church's moral confusion and its profound contempt for the Western culture that built it. If church leaders truly want to connect with modern Britain, here's a better way. Stop chasing ridiculous fads. Start preaching biblical truth and talk about Jesus instead.
MyPillow is excited to announce they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you won't find anywhere else. My Slippers, only $39.98. Any color, any style. Regular $149.98. Now only $39.98. That's a $110 savings. Once they're gone for good. My Towels are finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And for the first and only time, get their limited edition premium My Pillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens $17.98, Kings only $19.98. Also, for a limited time, when your order is over $100, you'll receive free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. So go to mypillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. That number again is 800-489-0201. Promo code LIBERTY.
If you want thick, healthy, gorgeous hair, then you need Hair Volume from New Nordic. Available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Got a bit of a mess on Route 53. We'll start southbound at Palatine Road. Some debris on the roadway, but further south, jam-packed with a truck fire. And this is on the southbound side at Algonquin Road, so real slow through this area. The Eden looks good both ways. Inbound Kennedy from O'Hare to the Byrne Interchange is 28 minutes. Outbound is 41. No major slowdowns on the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 24 minutes. Outbound is 30. Inbound Stevenson from Tri-State to Lakeshore is 32. Outbound is 20. This report is sponsored by Staples. Today's just not any day. It's your lucky day. Staples Easy Deal days are extended now through October 18th. Easy Rewards members score up to 40% off more than 1,000 products in store and online. Head to your local Staples store or visit staples.com to save while supplies last. Staples, that was easy. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be breezy and warm with lots of clouds in the morning, giving way to some sunshine later. Expect a high of 76. Tonight it will become cloudy and stay warm with a chance of a few showers arriving late. Temperatures will drop to a low of 64. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, and many more. Get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Did you hear the story about a Hanover Park policeman detained by ICE because he is in this country illegally? Well, it has to be untrue. That cannot be a true story. It's got to be false. So I just want to set the record straight on this. I know this is being discussed and it's become national, but before this gets too out of control, let's make sure that everybody understands that cannot happen in Illinois. You know how I know this? Well, I mean, right here. Let's go to the sources. The Associated Press. This fact check from August of 2023. The claim. A new law in Illinois allows any immigrant living in the country illegally to become a police officer. That's false, according to the Associated Press. You want to question the Associated Press? Who dare question the Associated Press and their fact checkers? The AP's assessment, false. The law allows certain non-citizens to apply for police officer jobs, but they must be legally authorized to both work and carry a firearm in the country. Immigration law experts say this includes lawful permanent residents or green card holders, as well as those in the country with permanent legal status, but not yet full citizens, such as refugees and asylees. So it didn't happen because it can't, because the AP said so. And it wasn't just the AP. I mean, if I can fold in another outlet populated by our betters, USA Today, I'm talking about, obviously. The claim, Illinois law allows immigrants living in the U.S. illegally to become cops. Nope. That is false. Our rating, USA Today, false. The law says non-citizens applying for those jobs must be legally allowed to possess guns. People living in the U.S. illegally don't qualify because federal law bars them from owning guns, according to tax experts and lawmakers. So there you go. What you've been reading about this Hanover Park cop from Montenegro cannot be true because Illinois politicians said so, and then the Associated Press and USA Today and many other outlets sharing the same script also said so. When they say it's false, we just accept it. We don't pay attention to reality. Not in Chicagoland. How offensive. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. I mean, this fairy tale that's being told, I mean, if you want to hear it. And obviously, ICE, they're racists and terrorists going after non-whites like this guy named Bojovic from Montenegro. Okay. The story, the fairy tale that has been repudiated by the Associated Press and USA Today on principle, and by all the politicians who said the same thing at the time that law was passed. That this guy from Montenegro, working as a sworn officer for the Hanover Park Police Department, encountered during a targeted enforcement action as part of Operation Midway Blitz. By the way, can I just remind people? Somebody reminded me, and I don't want to forget this. Operation Midway Blitz was named in honor of Katie Abraham, who was killed by an illegal immigrant in this country, a young lady from the Glenview area, visiting her friends at U of I. And so was another girl from Deerfield in that car, killed by an illegal immigrant, who now I understand from her father, Joe, may be cutting a deal for 30 years in prison for killing those two young ladies and trying to flee the country. So when you call Operation Midway Blitz, when you say these are jackbooted thugs, it's racists and terrorists, Gestapo and so forth, just remember, in my view, you're besmirching the memory and the name of Katie Abraham. Maybe you should challenge some of these ghastly, vile neo-Jacobins outside the Broadview ICE facility and, generally speaking, milling about in Chicago neighborhoods. Challenge them along those lines. Anyway, getting back to this this cop from Montenegro who's on the Hanover Park Police Department, but of course couldn't have been. He couldn't have been. AP said so. He overstayed his, according to the fairy tale, not the official story. He overstayed his tourist visa for 10 years and was required to leave the United States in March of 2015. Department of Homeland Security also noted it is a felony by someone in the U.S. illegally to carry a firearm, not in Hanover Park. This is why it can't be. The DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin, Governor J.B. Pritzker doesn't just allow violent illegal aliens to terrorize Illinois' communities. He allows illegal aliens to work as sworn police officers. This guy Bojovic violated our nation's laws and was living illegally in the United States for 10 years. And what kind of police department gives criminal illegal aliens badges and guns? That's a good question. Really good question. Hanover Park taxpayers also paying his $80,000 salary. Or at least that was his starting salary. I don't know how long he's been on the force. According to Hanover Park Village officials, this feels very much like the Des Moines superintendent story, doesn't it? Your local officials in Hanover Park, your local officials, your local school board in Des Moines, they're on the job. According to a statement from the Village of Hanover Park, Bojovic presented a valid work authorization issued by CIS, Immigration or Citizenship and Immigration Service, at the time of his hiring. A full background check was conducted, and the village confirmed that his immigration status allowed him to carry a firearm while on duty. How's that? They just this is just a statement they make, but there's no explanation. So how do you reconcile it? If they have information that he is here illegally, overstayed a visa 10 years ago, and you did a background check and you got related work authorization paperwork, I mean, how does that jibe? I don't get it. By the way, work authorization issued by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Why are you prioritizing, in terms of hiring police officers in Hanover Park, people that are not citizens? Why? Just a predicate question. Even if he had been allowed to work as a police officer under Illinois law and had some special and had a designation that allowed him to legally possess a firearm under federal law, why would you not be prioritizing Illinois residents who are U.S. citizens for your police department? Just a question. Maybe there's a good explanation. I don't know. Are you allowed to ask that question? Or am I a racist against Montenegrins? Which is by the way, it's a country that's like 3/4 Christian. The statement from the Hanover Park peeps went on to say, the bottom line is that all the information we received from the federal government indicated that Officer Bojovic is legally authorized to work in the United States as a police officer. Clearly, without that authorization, the village would not have hired him. It's not clear to me. Maybe. The village has not received any notice from federal or state agency that his work authorization status has ever been revoked. Well, you're on notice now because he's just got picked up by ICE, aren't you? He is on administrative leave amid the immigration proceedings and will be returned to full duty if allowed to remain in the U.S. That seems unlikely, that he'll be allowed to remain in the U.S. Kristi Noem tweeted out, consistent with her underling statement, the sanctuary state of Illinois under Governor Pritzker is completely corrupt. ICE arrested an illegal alien working as a sworn police officer in a Chicago suburb. Radical sanctuary policies have allowed criminal illegal aliens to infiltrate our school districts, communities, and even police departments. President Trump and I will continue to put the safety of Americans first. Tony in Downers Grove.
Yeah, Dan, I don't get this. I mean, there's going to be a bunch of dumb people tomorrow running around with signs, chanting misinformation, and here you have people that they overstay their visas. You overstay your visa, and you are here illegally, and you need to be deported. Period. End of story. And by the way, this happens with school visas, which you get a school visa for 5 years. You apply. If you want to stay in the country, you have to have a job of at least where your earnings is at least $150,000. Or guess what? You cannot be here any longer. For those on work visas, what some people do after their visa expires is they'll apply, depending on where they're from, they will apply for political asylum. And you know who pays for that? We do. This is a bunch of garbage, and we need to pay attention to it. And you have these mopes out there tomorrow that are going to be running around like little zombies chanting misinformation.
Thanks for the call, Tony. Well, I'll tell you what, they can do that. Free country. But it doesn't mean that there won't be consequences visited We'll see. I don't know about Hanover Park, but just since it bears such a striking resemblance to Des Moines and the school superintendent there, where he was from, Guyana, I believe. I mean, fake academic record, all kinds of legal entanglements, fled police with a gun and $3,000 in cash. I mean, really something. Jackie Norris, the Des Moines Public School Board chair and former chief of staff to Michelle Obama, of course she was. She was running for Senate in Iowa as a neo-Marxist, of course. Michelle Obama, former chief of staff. To replace Joni Ernst, who is not running for re-election. She has now suspended her campaign. So the whole her whole push for radical empathy towards the former school superintendent, and the Des Moines School Board said the same thing Hanover Park is saying. We followed all the rules. We did the vetting. We did the background check. We did everything right. Well, I'm clearly not. I don't know how you take that position. But, of course, never admit you made a mistake. Well, she has, yes, as I said, she suspended her campaign. So there were some consequences visited upon her. She doesn't feel like she can any longer move forward with her candidacy, which speaks to her belief that she doesn't have a chance. Good. Rare. Mike in Yorkville.
Good morning, Dan. You have that question, why are they putting these people in like this? Because Democrats love corruption, especially at a local level, because they have useful little idiot soldiers that are going to be able to run around, do their bidding, so they can cover up their own works. I mean, how many people did this lady that was out in Iowa probably crush or demean or even ruin careers before she finally got caught up with this issue in her lap?
Thanks for the call, Mike. And, again, at the local level, I'll just use this as an opportunity for Trump supporters, Trump voters, even recent converts to voting for Trump, over Kamala, or recent converts to the Republican Party. You want to pay attention to what's happening in your backyard? Or you just want to sort of focus your eyesight on what's happening at the federal level and take rhetorical positions on social media and do nothing about your local officials, your state officials, even turn out to vote? You see the impact? As these suburbs have been cleaned out. Suburban Cook and the Collier counties. By exactly the kind of people that Mike in Yorkville was describing. The other Mike on 355.
Hi, Dan. I was a resident of Illinois. I got a Florida driver's license and voter card. I have a blue place down there. And when I did that, the Illinois State Police revoked my FOID card because I was no longer a resident of Illinois.
Yeah.
But I read the Daily Herald today, and there was no mention of whether this guy has a FOID card or not. I don't think he qualifies for one. So I can't even go into a gun store, touch a firearm, buy ammunition, or anything like that. And here's this guy, he doesn't have a FOID card. So how can he carry a firearm if he doesn't have a FOID card in Illinois? They make such a big deal out of it for everybody else. I'm not getting that part.
Well, I mean, for U.S. citizens, Mike. I mean, you're only a U.S. citizen. Thanks for the call. Yeah, no, I mean, the Village said, he was authorized by the federal government to carry a firearm. Oh, really? Yeah, does he have a FOID card? It's a good question. Authorized, federal authorization, but it's still a local matter. State and local matter. Until and unless Illinois wants to get rid of their FOID card, which they should have done a long time ago with the other 47 states that don't have one. But, slow learners in this state. Oh, Jack in Northwest Indiana.
So, Dan, this is the uncomfortable truth of the whole matter. But for those who don't know, I mean, Hanover Park is a heavy Hispanic population. I suspect both folks that are here legally as well as illegally. And I guarantee this is all part of the community policing aspect where we will bring, quote, one of ours. And that's really what it is. It's shameful.
Well, this guy's from Montenegro. He's not Latino.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for the call, Jack. I mean, that's part of the point. This is, as far as I could tell, a Christian honky from Montenegro. To the point of, this is not about your country of origin or your race. This is about your lawful status. Randy in Orland Park.
Yeah, Dan, you're exactly right about the impact. Well, here's the impact that's going to happen to the villagers of Hanover Park. Start waiting for the lawsuits to roll in, because when every arrest that this guy is made will be challenged in court. In court, and
good point.
And the villagers are going to end up, and people, those who are arrested by this guy because he had no right being a police officer, they're going to be sued.
That's a good point. Thanks for the call, Randy. Yeah. I got a text from a police officer friend of mine. The why is Hanover Park prioritizing non-citizens? The why is because Illinois has demonized the police so much that we don't have any more candidates. Nobody wants to be the police. Maybe. I think that's less the case in the suburbs than the city. That's my sense of it. But I'm sure people are... that police in the suburbs are somewhat demoralized, too, by the way they see law enforcement being treated in the city, federal law enforcement being treated everywhere. So, I mean, there could be something to that. I don't know what the level of interest is to be a police officer in Hanover Park. So if that's something they want to say, then they should say it. These are the lengths we have to go to because people are demonizing the police and nobody wants to come be a police officer in Hanover Park. I doubt that's the case, but if it is, make the argument. Happy to listen. Robert Lyle.
Yeah, hi. I'm an ex-deputy sheriff. In 1972, they had the FOID cards then, but if you were in law enforcement, you didn't need a FOID card because you take an oath to uphold the law, and then you have to go to training and you gun and all this kind of stuff, too. So I didn't have to get one until after I was
after you were done.
Force.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
Fair enough. Thanks for the call, Robert. Mike in Hammond.
Hey, Dan, thanks for taking my call. Can the federal government go after these officials in Hanover Park or wherever this was for knowingly allowing this guy to carry a weapon when he was legally not able to by federal law? Once we see some of these lawsuits start coming in and actually putting some of these people behind bars, you might see some things change a little bit.
Well, thanks for the call, Mike. I mean, the flip side of this is to say, okay, so who to Hanover Park officials? Okay, so who'd you interact with? I mean, we want names and agencies in terms of provide the details. I'm not taking it at your word. Give us names and agencies. So who knows if they're still at some of these agencies, then they can be relieved of duty or disciplined, whatever is warranted. But let's piece together all the facts here, as opposed to just saying, as opposed to just sort of the finger pointing and then nobody is held accountable, which is, of course, what officials at both levels are always anxious to do. Deborah in Arlington Heights.
Good morning, Dan. So my mom came here in the 50s. She came from Germany. She couldn't speak English. She had a sponsor. She came here, so had a job, went to night school to learn English, filed what was called her alien address every year, and finally became a citizen. That's, like, in a nutshell, what you need to do. And anything outside of that, where you're coming here legally or illegally or overstaying your visa or, not doing what you're supposed to be doing, there's a clear definition of legal versus illegal immigration. So it infuriates me when people conflate the issue, and then also when they try to make excuses for people that are here illegally. When I saw my mom and what she went through, and it wasn't easy for her. And so it infuriates me when people continue to enable this.
Thanks for the call, Deborah. Appreciate it. We'll take more of your calls on that topic and every topic under the sun at the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour in Open Mic Friday, so you can call in then. At 8:08, we're going to talk to a Chinese-American adjunct fellow at the Manhattan Institute about the race in New York City. It is now 8 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Hey,
He's turning himself in. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. John Bolton is at a Maryland courthouse for a hearing the day after the former Trump advisor turned Trump critic was indicted.
I think he's, a bad person. I think he's a bad guy, yeah.
Now, President Trump also says he's not following the case, though Bolton in a statement calls it Trump intimidation and an abuse of power. He's facing 18 criminal charges.
Transmitting national defense information and unlawful retention of classified material. The charges allege years of mishandling top secret records by Bolton and sharing more than 1,000 pages of sensitive material with relatives not authorized to view them. An attorney for Bolton says the case was investigated and resolved years ago, saying the charges stem from personal diaries shared with his immediate family.
Fox's Jared Halpern. Later today, President Trump will have another meeting with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky the day after another Trump-Putin call with Russia's leader, and they're planning another summit in the coming weeks.
Ukraine has really gained a lot of momentum in recent weeks. U.S. intelligence sharing has allowed Ukraine to take some significant action against Russian energy sites. And now Ukraine wants the U.S. to approve these Tomahawk missiles to take out weapons depots deep inside of Russia.
Fox's Jackie Heinrich at the White House. The president has just told Fox Business's Maria Bartiromo he also plans a meeting in the coming weeks with China's leader after he says China's actions forced him to threaten to raise tariffs on Chinese imports to 100%.
It's not sustainable, but that's what the number is.
The president who brokered the ceasefire deal in Gaza is also warning Hamas Israel may resume the war if they don't hand over the last 19 dead hostages. Hamas says it needs help. Ruby Hen, whose son is among the 19, tells Fox
they needed to provide all the 48 hostages, and those that they cannot, they would provide intelligence saying where they are. I do not think that happened.
America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 59 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keen in the AM 560 newsroom. A federal appeals court has ruled that the Trump administration cannot deploy National Guard troops here in Chicago. Fox's Jessica Rosenthal has more.
A federal judge had ruled against the Trump administration's effort to deploy the Illinois and Texas National Guard in places including Chicago, finding insufficient evidence of a rebellion or danger of one. Now, a three-judge panel of the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals has found, even with deference toward the president, the facts do not justify his actions in Illinois. The judge is right that the federal government has been able to protect federal property and personnel without the National Guard's help, but that deploying the Guard is likely violating the state's 10th Amendment rights, and that the deployment of Texas Guard members would be an incursion on Illinois' sovereignty, making the constitutional injury especially significant. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Illinois lawmakers and nonprofit leaders remain divided over federal SNAP changes, sparring over work requirements, administrative errors, and the rising costs of new state responsibilities. During an Illinois House Appropriations Health and Human Services Committee hearing, the CEO of the Greater Chicago Food Depository, Kate Mayer, said that work requirements don't achieve their intended goals.
What having a work requirement often leads to is a decision to not apply for the benefit, and that has huge implications, particularly for children.
And Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is looking for creative ways to fund the city's budget, including instituting a social media tax. Johnson's social media amusement and responsibility, or SMART tax, would generate more than $30 million for mental health services. There are no property tax increases proposed in the mayor's budget. This news update is quickly delivered to you by Quick Delivery Service. Why are you sitting in Friday traffic? Time is money. When you need your important items delivered quickly, Quick Delivery Service will be there to pick it up and take it to its destination. Go to quickdelivery.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes, but time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
American Express summer quarter was upbeat, and it's raising expectations for this year after card members' spending rose 8% in the period compared with a year ago. Earnings and revenue were both stronger than expected. Amex recently raised the cost of its Platinum card to $895 a year. The card offers more perks. It's seeing strong demand for the Platinum card. Concerns about regional banks have stocks under pressure after Zions Bancorp and Western Alliance Bancorp reported issues with borrowers. Other regional banks, though, are reporting better than expected business in the recent quarter. Charlotte-based Truist Financial says its profit and revenue both improved in the period. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Cosola. Invested in you.
Scott Jennings isn't seeing anything new from the Democrats.
Democrats for years, 4 years, have called for illegal aliens to receive free health care from the government. No one really disputes that is the Democratic official position. It is the major tenet of their party's healthcare platform.
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at 1, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer. Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly. Each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Bob Chivato, owner of Go Exceed and a customer of Signature Bank. By leveraging AI and machine learning, we provide data management solutions for corporations to save time and money managing their cellular devices. While we rely on machines to help us run our business, we believe personal relationships are essential. This is why we chose Signature Bank. Having a banking partner who understands our background, our business, and our priorities is fundamental to our success. Any bank can provide basic services, but having a bank that you can trust, one that looks out for you and treats your business like its own, that's irreplaceable.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature Bank at 773-467-5600 or visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Maybe this is you too. People are enormously frustrated with the cost of healthcare right now. There is an option. Hundreds of thousands of people have gone with MediShare. They like it more, and they're saving a lot of money. Perfect time for you to join, too. Apply before October 31st, and they will waive your application fee. That's $100 you'll be saving right off the bat, in addition to the thousands you can save every year. Call them now. Here's the number, 844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE. MediShare is a community of Christians who've shared more than $9 billion in medical bills. It has worked beautifully for decades. And with so many people re-examining their options right now, seeing premiums going up and up, this is a great time to take advantage of this offer. Just tell them the promo code SHARE and save $100 before October 31st. Call 844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE. 844-41-BIBLE.
You ever wonder why Verizon charges twice as much as Pure Talk for the same basic service? Think it might have something to do with the fact that Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotion? That's billion with a B. Yeah, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. That's why they can offer unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Save an additional 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say the words Micro. That's pound 250, Micro.
It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock is here with tips to help protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication on your accounts, report phishing, and update your software on all your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, LifeLock is your best choice. LifeLock not only alerts you to suspicious uses of your personal information, but also fixes identity theft, guaranteed, or your money back. So stay smart, stay safe, and stay protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use the promo code BECK. Terms do apply.
Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr. Now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560. The Answer.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Inbound on the Eden from Lake Cook to Montrose, 16 minutes. Getting slow on the outbound side, 29 minutes. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Burnt Interchange is 43 minutes. Outbound jammed at 54 minutes. The Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 41 minutes. Outbound is 33. Slowing down inbound on the Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore, that's 44 minutes. Outbound, a solid 25. Inbound on the Dan Ryan, jam-packed between the Bishop Ford merge and 79th Street with police activity at 79th Street. So it's going to be 36 minutes from 95th to the Burn interchange. No delays on the outbound side. On the Bishop Ford inbound, you are slow between 111th Street and the Dan Ryan Expressway. And watch out for a crash on the Jane Addams. Eastbound at Beverly Road, delays go back to Randall Road. This report is a service of Goldilocks. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be breezy and warm with clouds in the morning, then some sun later. Expect a high of 76. Tonight it will turn cloudy and warm with a few late showers. The low will be 64. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. That New York City mayoral debate was something. Boy, talk about a bunch of low cards in that hand. I mean, I like Curtis Sliwa, but he doesn't have a chance, and so it comes down to the avowed Marxist Mamdani and handsy Andy Cuomo, who was a disaster as governor, and particularly during the pandemic, something, by the way, that Mamdani seized on.
Speak to him, but to work with him if it means delivering on lowering the cost of living for New Yorkers. That's something that he ran his presidential campaign on, and yet all he's been able to deliver thus far has been prosecuting his political enemies and trying to enact the largest deportation program in American history.
You know, if you come after New York, you know what I'm going to do. You know it's going to be ugly. And, you know, my chances are almost 50-50, even though you're the president. I'd like to work with you. I think we can do good things together. But number one, I will fight you every step of the way if you try to hurt New York.
Yeah, okay. The big tough talk from both of those clowns. That was obviously in reaction to, will you work with Trump or not? And you get the same tired rhetoric that you get from all these big city mayors and blue state governors. We're very familiar with it. On police, this was an interesting exchange. I mean, at least Sliwa forced himself into the conversation from time to time.
The difference between me and the assemblyman is he doesn't like the police. That's why he won't hire more police when everyone else says we need more police. He wants to use social workers on domestic violence calls, which are very dangerous. And he's told you what he thinks. He thinks the police are racist, wicked, corrupt, and a threat to public safety.
Thank you.
Those are his words.
Very quick. Mr. Mamdani, very quick.
Look, Andrew Cuomo is a politician of the past, and all he can speak about are the tweets of the past in 2020. Those are tweets which I have apologized for to New Yorkers and police officers directly, and they are not what I am actually running on.
No. That's what I believe. I'm just not running on it anymore. Yeah, we're familiar with it. Just like I'm not running on being an anti-Semite, pro-Hamas sympathizer. Yeah, no, we got that. The problem, of course, is that, again, Andy Cuomo moralizing about the New York City police. Well, I mean, this is a guy who was an apologist for the Black Lives Matter goonery back 5 years ago. 4, 5, 6 years ago. But I got to say, the back and forth and the Cuomo trying to make some points. The two tells this week from Mamdani that I thought were really interesting. I mean, not that this is particularly revealing. He has made very clear who he is, even if he's walking away from tweets and previous positions. Mamdani's litmus test for Andrew Cuomo. This is where he went after Andrew Cuomo in terms of, being a mayor for all the people, sort of.
respond?
You know, it took Andrew Cuomo being beaten by a Muslim candidate in the Democratic primary for him to set foot in a mosque. He had more than 10 years, and he couldn't name a single mosque at the last debate we had that he visited. And what Muslims want in this city is what every community wants and deserves. They want equality and they want respect. And it took me to get you to even see those Muslims as part of this city. And that, frankly, is something that is shameful and is why so many New Yorkers have lost faith in this politics.
Yeah, you're not going to get to the left of Mamdani when it comes to identity politics. And the other piece of it was, I mean, you know, he said he's going to keep cops at the same level. Brandon Johnson said the same thing when he was running. He's just going to make it just a dismal job to perform, which will create organic attrition on the force. That's what will happen under Mamdani. I bet dollars to donuts on it. And then also, just in terms of his everything is free and we're just going to tick up the city income tax a point or two on the rich, and we're going to tick up the corporate tax to be equivalent to New Jersey's corporate tax, and that's how we're going to fund all these giveaways like free bus rides. But this is really good. The basis for the free bus rides, among the rent subsidies and everything else that he's going to give away at somebody else's expense. But the basis for the free bus rides.
I think it's one of the key reasons why we have to make buses free is because it reduces the assaults on bus drivers. It creates a safer work environment.
So if you want people to stop assaulting bus drivers, you just make it free. Well, sure. I mean, we could apply that to society writ large. I mean, if you want people to stop stealing, just decriminalize stealing. You just make it free. I go to my jeweler friend and say, you know, I want that watch. And so it's free. Zohran Mamdani's paying for it. Well, then we don't have to get into an argument. I don't have to smash a window and grab it and run. Just make everything free. And then it stops all the uneasiness and discord in the city. I mean, and listen to this. It goes on. 44% that they did a pilot program. The pilot, this is the story. The pilot firstly dramatically increased ridership. Oh, if something's free and you have oversubscription or an increase in consumption, what a shock. Yeah, I took an Econ 101 class too. The pilot firstly dramatically increased ridership across all 5 fare-free bus lines. The MTA reported a 30% increase in ridership on weekdays and 38% on the weekends, with 23% of riders reporting that they made the trip because it was free. Only 23? It also provided clear economic relief to low-income riders. 44% of riders took the free bus for errands and leisure, allowing them to more freely contribute to the New York economy. Oh, it's growth. It's a growth-oriented policy. Right, because the folks who are not paying $2.90 for a bus fee are now free to invent the next competitor in the race for AI supremacy. I mean, it is really something to watch this play out. I mean, I could pretend to be aghast, but I cover Chicago and Illinois, so this is just sort of very much in keeping. For more on the topic of this race and its implications, pleased to be joined by Wei-Hua Chin, adjunct fellow at the Manhattan Institute and founding president of the Chinese American Citizens Alliance of Greater New York. Mr. Chin, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chin, sorry. So your take on the mayor's race and what transpired last night and whether or not you think that is going to in any way alter the outcome?
So far, the debate last night would not change much the dial. There's not much that has changed from that, but I think that it was a good start. Mamdani did not do anything that hurt himself tremendously, but he still showed that he had no experience whatsoever. He's
never had a job. That was the point Cuomo made. Yeah.
No.
That's the definition of no experience. Yeah.
That's right. I think that Cuomo, in fact, I mentioned last night that the only job he had was an intern for his mother. This is a Nepo baby, okay? This is a person who talks about taking away all sorts of property, seizing the means of production, all these Marxist terms. But of course, he himself lived a very, very nice life of luxury. His mother running around with Hollywood money, celebrities. They have a Uganda property. So, a person who believes not in property has himself a very nice, large tract in Uganda. And his father was a professor at Columbia. They're extremely well off.
Yeah, a Marxist professor at Columbia. Is there any other kind? And of course, the chalet they have in Uganda allows him to identify as an African American.
Correct. So you may know that he did check off that box when he was applying to college at Columbia, in fact, and still didn't get in. So, and with his father there too. So this is unfortunately a person that has not done very much. And believe the man, for his history, the things that he has tweeted, the things that he has said, his giving Columbus statue, all sorts of
the finger.
bad press.
Yeah, right.
That's right. Wanting to tear it down. This is not a uniter. He is a divider.
Well, so this comes to pass, and I assume the city council is similarly oriented to Mamdani, at least in terms of trying to soak the rich. They don't seem to understand that the rich are mobile. Cuomo tried to make the point that the taxes he's proposed to fund the programs he's proposed will have New Yorkers heading down to the Sunshine State. But, so do we expect a period where New York City was coming out of the pandemic and starting to do better? Now that is going to be reversed, assuming that Mamdani gets elected next month.
And there's a lot of concern. I think that you've hit it on the nail there. A lot of people are talking about moving out, maybe temporarily, maybe for longer because of the taxes, because of also the crime. And his policies don't really make a lot of sense. When you mention the free buses, where is the sense behind it? Because they're losing so much money already with the Transit Authority, what we call the MTA over here. To have that in addition really does not help the economy. Mamdani also says that he wants by 2030 to nearly double the minimum wage for New York. And he doesn't think about what does that cost. You could legislate everything under the sun. In fact, you could try to legislate sunshine, but it doesn't happen just because you legislate it.
Yeah, the buses thing is so he's getting more ridership. So that may reduce the assaults on bus drivers, but it'll probably increase the assaults on New Yorkers beating up each other. I mean, I think of like if we made the L free in Chicago. Well, you'd have more ridership and you'd have more associated crime because that's just part of what's happening in the city. And I know the New York City subway system, I mean, it's the subway, it's not the buses, but the New York City subway system has had a problem with crime as well.
Yes, it has. In all these decades, I think since the beginning of when they first opened the subways over 100 years ago, they never had barriers on the platforms, because they were never afraid of people being pushed onto the tracks. You might have somebody fall once in a very, 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 very rare occasion. But what happened in the last several years, you had many more incidents of people being pushed onto the tracks. And so now you're finding a lot of the platforms are having these barriers that are put on there to impede people from falling in. Let's call it falling in, but the real concern is being pushed because they never needed this for over 100 years.
So, I mean, it's always interesting to talk to people who come from oppressive countries that are authoritarian or totalitarian in terms of their culture. And so that would include you coming from China. And, because usually they're the kind of people that can give I don't know, ignorant Americans some perspective on, you go down this road of serfdom here with these sorts of centralized policies and command control politicians, and you are going down a very dangerous road that has a very unhappy ending. And so I just wanted your perspective on that vis-a-vis New York.
I think that's absolutely true, because if you have free this, free that, it only means that everybody doesn't get anything. You want to equalize everybody, you equalize it to the bottom, not to the top. And when you talk about the government stores, you may have heard about that too, because government stores, free to rent, your free buses, free childcare, everything is free. But they never think about who's going to pay for it, how is it going to be paid for. So people are, as you said, leave the city, and then what happens to what remains? The stores. Think about a government-run store. Okay, I can't really imagine how that is a good thing. A government store, you could just imagine how good the service will be, how good the products will be, how large a variety will be. And what happens in socialist countries, communist countries, you get on the line, okay? You cannot get the products that you want. Instead, it's basically a rationing society. And so until the countries become non-socialist, they do not have the products and services that the people want. You could see that in China. It did not happen that they had the quality of life that was there in the 1930s, actually, until something like the 1980s, because of all the policies that had happened in the socialist, or it's not socialist, but it's communist. But you think about all of the policies in every single communist country. None of them had a good quality of life materially, and then also as far as the other parts of free speech, the ability to achieve things. That's not going to happen here. Having free speech, they talk about it that, it cannot possibly happen here. But there are ways of determining that if you do not follow certain policies, then later there will be a lot of the rights that you thought would be available that won't be. It's the same thing that's happened in on the campuses. You talk about Mamdani being anti-Semite. Well, that is part of it. When people have different thoughts and opinions, you start allowing the pro-Hamas people to stop Jews from being able to go to class, Jews from being able to express their opinion, and being pretty much harassed and obstructed from their own lives that they're supposed to have right in the campus that they paid tremendously to be in. So we could expect that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the greatest moment in the debate last night was the recognition that Mamdani lives in a rent-subsidized apartment. So he's this person of privilege who's never had a job. He lives in a rent-subsidized apartment that's supposed to go for lower-income people. I mean, so she's just a poster child for the intersection of all the bad thinking and the bad policies that resulted from the bad thinking in New York City. I mean, it's just perfect. She is Wei Hua-chin, adjunct fellow at the Manhattan Institute, founding president of the Chinese American Citizens Alliance of Greater New York. Ms. Chin, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
And she joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Cunahan, president of Leaf Filter, gets a lot of interesting calls to his office when folks are ready to tackle their gutters.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh.
Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/deal for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/deal. See representative for warranty details.
AM 560. The Answer.
Open mic! Open mic Friday! Call in now! Open mic Friday!
Yes, it's that time of the week. Open Mic Friday, taking your calls. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line and text line. Take your calls with comments, compliments, concerns, criticisms, general crack pottery. We'll take it all. But we begin, as we do, with turnkey.pro founder David Kolsak. David?
Good morning, Dan. Have you seen the price of gold and silver lately?
It's rolling, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've got gold at $4,300 an ounce and silver at about $54 an ounce. Those are basically all-time highs. And people are starting to take notice. You know, gold is up 60% year to date and silver a whopping 82%. Are these sharp rises in these precious metals telling us something that we should be paying attention to? You know, without getting too technical, and I'm not a financial advisor, I just want to point some things out. For over a century, the equity markets have been the backbone of wealth creation. You know, people have made fortunes building companies, investing in them, and some base their full retirements on the idea that markets will continue to rise and prosper. Most people have a 401k or an IRA and those are heavily invested in equities depending on earnings. For the last decade, we've lived in an era of cheap money, expanding debt, and central banks printed trillions, governments borrowed without restraint, and stocks soared on liquidity. Now, as inflation bites and confidence in fiat currencies like the U.S. dollar erodes, we may be facing a tide that's turning. You know, when the tide goes out, as Warren Buffett famously said, you find out who's been swimming naked. You know, right now, many investors are realizing that their portfolios, heavy in paper promises, may not be clothed in true value. You know, look at what happened to the crypto markets last Friday. It was a bloodbath and lots of people lost tons of money. Some leveraged investors lost it all, you know, and more volatility today. Buffett himself, who was never a fan of gold, may be teaching us something. You know, it's buy what has intrinsic value. You know, something that will hold its worth even if tomorrow's economy looks nothing like today's. That's what precious metals represent, and I think that's in large part why people are moving towards them. People are losing confidence in the value of the dollar, and they don't want promises, they want proof. A bar of gold doesn't default, an ounce of silver doesn't get diluted by a central bank. Consider history. Every major financial upheaval from the 70s through 2008 sent metals surging while equities faltered. Why? Because gold and silver are the ultimate hedge against uncertainty. They don't rely on quarterly earnings or government policy. They just reflect trust or the lack of it in the system itself. Today, that trust is fraying. The U.S. national debt is over $35 trillion. Currencies are being questioned worldwide. Even central banks, the very institutions that print money, are buying record amounts of gold. And that may signal that the most informed players on the board are hedging against their own system. You know, furthermore, you've got geopolitical tensions all over the place that make investors hedge against instability. Gold and silver historically tend to rise during uncertain times or war-prone periods, you know. And with our level of debt in the U.S., markets worry that the government may have to print more money or keep rates low to finance spending, which devalues the dollar even more. On top of that, inflation remains sticky, but central banks stop raising rates and real interest rates fall, and that's what's historically great for metals. Globally, there's a slow trend towards de-dollarization, adding to the flight of hard assets. So as we notice these trends, it's important to see that the surge in gold and silver is not random, but rather a reflection of this unease about debt, fiat currency, stability, and geopolitics. It's a renewed appetite for tangible stores of value. At this point, we can't ignore what's happening. So as I look at the world today, I ask myself, do I want to hold paper that claims depend on confidence or timeless assets that command it? Warren Buffett has built his empire on understanding value, and right now, real value lies in not what's promised, but what's proven. So my point is, continue to notice things. There's no denying this massive move up in gold and silver. They've stood the test of time, and maybe these markets are telling us that it's time to let gold and silver stand guard over our wealth again. Anyway, it's just something to think about.
Yeah, very good. Thanks for the call and the commentary, David. I agree with that. I mean, we've also seen, I just saw this, I think it was on CNBC yesterday, that that gold has actually outperformed the S&P since 2000, which I was surprised to read. But no, we've talked about it with John Tammany and others, too. I mean, I'm all for hard money. I would be all for a return to the gold standard. I don't think it's going to happen under this president. I think they're too enamored with crypto. But it's a real conversation as America's political class continues to be seemingly incapable of any sort of spending restraint. So, no, it's a timely discussion, no question. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line and text line. Taking your calls. You want to talk the YR controversy. You want to talk the Bolton indictment. You want to talk about Pritzker's gambling take, Gold Coast Fat, PH, we're calling them, or Jelly Bally's, or maybe something you come up that's more clever than that. And there's a couple other things I want to get to. And just before we get to calls, since we were discussing the New York situation, New York City situation, you know, it's not good if big cities fail. Not good if big cities fail. It's not good if small communities fail. Did you see Harvey in the south suburbs? Harvey is now waving the white flag financially and asking for the state to come over and take over its finances. That will happen in a lot more communities, particularly with the crushing impact of unfunded pension obligations in the coming weeks and months and years ahead, for the same reason we're talking about at the federal level as it pertains to the value of the dollar, which is to say a political class in Illinois that cannot maintain anything resembling fiscal sanity, has no spending restraint, no impulse control whatsoever. And, of course, that's a perfect segue to BLM Brandon's big budget rollout yesterday. Oh, my goodness. Here's the ABC 7 coverage of it. First, you'll hear from BLM. Then you'll hear from Craig Wall, the political reporter there doing the commentary. And then Jack Lavin, Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce, which, you know, frankly, generates an eye roll because they're so used to participating in this kleptocracy rather than actually standing for entrepreneurial capitalism. So yeah, he's right about BLM Brandon's budget, but it doesn't mean that he or the Chicagoland Chamber are honest brokers on the topic.
It acknowledges a harsh reality that I think that we all can agree on. We are living in unprecedented times.
And the mayor is looking for corporations and the wealthy to help close a budget deficit of nearly $1.2 billion. Among the progressive revenue ideas Johnson is proposing, bringing back the corporate head tax.
We are asking the top 3% of the absolute largest corporations in our city, those who have seen tremendous success and exceedingly high profits, to chip in so that we can build a safer city for all of Chicago.
The community safety surcharge, as he's calling it, would apply to companies with more than 100 employees. It would charge $21 per employee per month to generate $100 million in revenue that would pay for things like violence prevention programs and summer youth jobs. Local and state business groups blasted the plan, along with the increase in the cloud computing tax.
The best way to get rid of fiscal deficits is have new jobs. And the head tax and the cloud tax are job-killing taxes that will hurt businesses of every size and sector in Chicago.
Yeah, make it another reason to leave, to relocate to the suburbs or to another state altogether. No. Yeah, I'm still, where's the city income tax? Let's be bold. Mamdani's already raising the existing one, or wanting to, in New York City. Why not impose one in Chicago? Have the rich chip in, right, BLM? Yeah. And, of course, to make our city safer, and the money from these new taxes are going to go to what? Violence interrupters and make work summer jobs programs? Yeah, don't hire more police. 2,000 down. Same old, same old. Oh, and the social media tax that he wants to impose. Scott Waguespack, Alderman Scott Waguespack, correctly pointed out that that sounds great. The only problem is it's unconstitutional.
The mayor is also proposing a new first-of-its-kind tax on social media giants, which will raise $31 million to help pay for free health clinics.
And just like we tax other addictive vices that are bad for our health, like nicotine and tobacco, it is far past time we treat social media companies the same way.
Well, a social media tax has been challenged in many other states. The Supreme Court has looked at these and said these are First Amendment issues and struck down states' chances to try to tax these.
Not to mention the comparison of social media usage to a vice. It's a reach. It's really a reach. These guys, and we're going to raise $31 million, $1.2 billion budget deficit, and a $16 billion budget with public sector pensions that are basically below survivability in terms of percentages of funding, police and fire and police in that order, first up. I mean, just so unserious. So unserious. So anyway, that's an update on all the goings on in your big blue cities and this big blue region called Chicagoland. Going great. Don't change a thing. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. George and Lyle. Hey, George.
Hi. Number one. Do you remember the serial killer in Silence of the Lambs? Wasn't he like a transgender psychopath?
Hannibal Lecter?
No. Wild Bill, right? Wasn't it? Yeah, well, Hannibal Lecter too, but Wild Bill. But anyway, but other thing, what is with this prayer room with Pope Leo putting up in the Vatican?
The Muslim prayer room?
I am so disappointed in him right now. I mean, all these Christians being persecuted in the Middle East and Nigeria and all of this stuff. And then what does he do? He cows down to the Muslim populations of the world. This is really sad to me.
Thanks for the call, George. Eduardo, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. The media is going to make a big deal about these measles outbreaks, especially like in Texas and South Carolina, but we forget that the migrants that came through Mexico infected people with measles, even the migrant camp in places like Chicago. Remember that last year? Mm-hmm. So thank you, Donald Trump, for protecting us from, not only illegals, but also from health.
Thanks for the call, Eduardo. Suzanne in Wilmette.
Hi. Sorry, I'm walking by some landscapers. Did you guys discuss the Devin Horton, the school superintendent in Evanston?
I sure
who
did.
Just got indicted? Okay, I missed it.
Yeah.
All right, I just thought it was.
Thanks for the call, Suzanne. I'll revisit it because I mentioned, so I'll mention it again, Evanston Skokie School District 65, which is a disgrace. And I said earlier in the week, and I'll say it again, the parents in that district, as well as the school board members, should be named as unindicted co-conspirators. Devin Horton, who leveled up from Evanston to DeKalb County, Georgia, indicted for an embezzlement self-dealing scheme while at Evanston District 65, under the watchful eye of those school board members. I wonder if anybody was a Michelle Obama staffer like that Des Moines school board chairman, who just suspended her Senate campaign over the controversial approach of proposing that everyone in the district in Des Moines exhibit radical empathy towards this illegal immigrant that they hired to be their superintendent with all kinds of criminal issues and academic fraud perpetrated on the school district. They're just preternaturally incapable of accepting responsibility for anything. And it'd be nice if this drew some sort of response from the Evanston, Skokie, District 65 community, since that word is always thrown around, usually inappropriately, for what they allow to be perpetrated. I mentioned, and I'll mention again because it bears repeating, because it's such a good example of local government run amok and among a lobotomized or disinterested electorate. Just like in Hanover Park with this cop who's an illegal immigrant from Montenegro we were just talking about earlier. The school board approved a $50,000 a month security detail for this nobody superintendent named Devin Horton, who is a virulent race-hustling scam artist, which we always knew. We just didn't know the depths of it. Now we're getting a bit of an insight. I mean, Evanston, Skokie, District 65 was like DEI, gender identity politics, cultural Marxism par excellence. So there you go. Spin the wheel. Hanover Park, Harvey, Evanston, Skokie, District School 65. School District 65. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's like, what does it take? What does it take to get your attention? Just to get your attention, much less your activism, your engagement, like as a citizen in these communities. Baffling. And then wag your finger as people exit stage left from Chicagoland in Illinois. Right. We're the ones with the problem. Uh-huh. Okay. Dominic Desplaines.
Hey, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for taking my call. I want to tell you, I've lived in Chicago my whole life, and I've watched corruption. I'm 63 years old. I've watched corruption in my own neighborhood when I was a kid. And my district was, it was Crook County, of course. And it was Fast Eddie. Remember Verdoliak?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, with all this corruption going on in Illinois, and everyone turns their back on it because they're all involved, actually. And, I was thinking with the empathy that B.J. Pritzker has, why doesn't he take that $1.4 million and give it to the illegal immigrants?
Well, he's got all of your money to do that. So he's going to give it. Thanks for the call, Dominic. He's going to give the $1.4 million to, I don't know, the one of the LGBTQIA2S plus groups, or I don't know, one of these C3s or C4s, even because it's not like he needs the tax write-off, that are harboring illegal immigrants, just as they were suborning them into this country when it was open borders under Biden. I mean, it'll be one of these leftist activist groups masquerading as a nonprofit, like maybe the ADL. Mm-hmm. Just on local, on the topic, I got a follow-up on this email that I read yesterday from the mayor of Aurora. Since we're talking local, like I said, spin the wheel. Give me a community, and I'll give you a story that'll make your skin crawl. Because, as I said, in our discussion about Hanover Park, you just let these barbarians run everybody sensible out of these communities, or at least in terms of participation. They may still be there, but they're inert. Which would, and I'm not providing excuses for it because it's a cop-out. If you're going to be there, you might as well do something. John Lash, this mayor of Aurora, here the email he sent to the police leadership, Aurora Police Department. I want a quick thank you note to those who participate in the Latino community about ICE in our neighborhoods. Sadly, this is a problem not going away anytime soon. Historically, the police have been on the wrong side of history. Really? During the civil rights movement and the labor movement, defending Capitol. The pivotal points in American history are when police realized that their solidarity should be with labor, not capital. This guy was supposedly a union carpenter. I mean, really? Are there union carpenters? He's got to be an outlier. It's like that Marine running for Senate in Maine who calls himself a communist. There are always outliers in any organization, but good grief. So he continued, in this current struggle, I believe that we are 2 or 3 years away from a moment where we see the shift in solidarity. I would like to see Aurora lead and show something different. It will create discomfort during the transformation. Oh, another guy who wants to transform society like AOC away from capitalism and the rule of law and the importance of citizenship. Anyway, I digress. Going back to him, I noticed during the march towards Blue Kangaroo, whatever that is, when the police escort disappeared, that activists I didn't know used their vehicles to block the intersections and protect the marchers. All living things have the capacity to evolve and grow, except Illinois politicians. Oh, that's my remark. He goes on, government is about to go through a huge revolutionary period and shed that which is not necessary and refocus on what is important, whatever that means. As government continues to disintegrate from the top down, we have the opportunity to invent the ways and we have the opportunity to reinvent the ways we find food, water, shelter, and protection. What? We would like the Aurora Police Department to play a historic role in defending the United States of America. How about just focusing on Aurora and our city against fascism? Where's the Aurora Police Department going to be deployed, Mayor? These freaking people, man. We have a unique opportunity to do something different, blah, blah, blah. We need to make our mark in the history books and make a difference. And boy, it's a real inspired Churchillian speech, I'm sure he thinks. As I said the other day, the Workers of the World Unite was not included in the email, but it's certainly implied. There's a follow-up email to this. A text exchange that I got a hold of. Somebody asked him, did you really say the police have been on the wrong side of history? I would suggest you do not know the residents of Aurora. They love our officers. When I was there, the relationship between police and neighbors was incredible. We all worked together to make the neighborhoods better. I hope this is not a true story. His response was, the police were on the wrong side of history during the civil rights movement. History is pretty darn clear unless you're a revisionist. Their position on ICE needs to be challenged. I wrote something similar to corporate counsel. Well, first of all, some police, at the direction of the likes of the Orville Faubuses of the world during the civil rights movement, were on the wrong side of history. But to characterize all police during the 60s as on the wrong side of history is not revisionist history. It's inaccurate. You're painting with quite the broad brush, aren't you, Mayor Lash? Number two, you didn't limit it to the civil rights movement. You said they've historically been on the wrong side of history, generally speaking, in the civil rights movement and the labor movement, which is sort of a encompassing characterization. That's what you said. That's what you wrote. I just read it. It's your email. I mean, again, the third most populous city in Illinois, and there's your leadership, your political leadership, at least. Same guy who I mentioned yesterday, and I'll mention again, who refused the order given by Trump to lower flags to half staff in memory of Charlie Kirk. He refused. I know at least the fire chief ignored that refusal and lowered the flags to half staff. So there's a disconnect there. I mean, again, there's some decent people in Aurora, like everywhere. But they don't seem to rise to the level of being mayors or elected officials in these suburban communities, do they now? John Noak, the mayor of Romeoville, who's supposed to be a Republican, he's doing the same nonsense as this guy. John Noak is calling for people to donate to ISER, Illinois Immigrant Refugee Rights Coalition, which is one of these open borders, ICE demonizing, quote unquote, C3s. You know, anybody, Bueller? Rob and Wheaton, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Morning, Dan. I'm on my morning constitutional, and I heard J.B. Transfat refer to himself as a lucky man, so obviously Emerson, Lake, and Palmer come to mind. And I thought I'd get us started on the first line to the new version of Lucky Man, which is, he ate large pizzas and pastries by the score, all meant to fatten this rich Marxist whore. Ooh, and so on and so forth. I thought we'd get started on a Friday morning with honor of JB Transnet.
Very good. Thank you for that, Rob. We'll see if we can have some, maybe our poet laureate can fill in some of those lyrics. Bart in Bradenton, Florida.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Hey, I hear Limelight in the commercial bumps every now and then, so I'm just working off the assumption you might be a Rush fan.
I am a Rush fan.
What are your thoughts? You are?
Yeah.
Okay. What are your
I
thoughts
saw them
on
at the MGM in Vegas. I didn't have as good a trip as J.B. Pritzker did recently, but I did see them at the MGM in Vegas.
Fabulous. Hey, what are your thoughts on their tour? And maybe what is your favorite Rush song? Maybe an obscure one that people wouldn't know.
Oh, gosh, I don't know if I have a favorite Rush song. I'm looking forward to the tour. I don't know about that drummer that replacing the late, great Neil Peart, but...
Big shoes to fill.
You think?
Yeah, slightly.
Yeah, what's well? I mean, I was going to say Tom Sawyer, but then it sounds like I'm just a fanboy and I don't really know the band. But I really do like that song. I don't know if it's an obscure one. There's an obscure one. What's your favorite?
I would go with probably Xanadu or Spirit of Radio. Spirit of Radio is really not.
Spirit of Radio is
Xanadu.
great. That's not obscure, but that's a great song too. Yeah. All right.
Well, hey, we'll see you in Chicago.
Thanks, Bart. Appreciate it. Lou in Western Pennsylvania.
Hey, Dan. I called to talk about you, your show, your staff, how things work behind the scenes, guests, advertisers, how the topics are chosen, anything like that. If you could address that'd be neat to hear.
Okay, that's interesting. Thanks for the call, Lou. We just make things up as we go along. No, I mean, we always need more advertisers. So if you know anybody, please refer them our way. But how does the show? It's a small operation. It's me. It's Justin who runs the board and does all the audio stuff and drops and all that business. And Quinn, who's the executive producer, and he gets the guests and takes the calls and all that stuff. And Quinn really leads the charge. I mean, I think over the last decade, we've built like a pretty good stable of people that we like to talk to semi-regularly on different topics who have expertise or insights that are fairly consistent. And then we're always looking for the one-off because somebody wrote an interesting piece or is party to an interesting event. And he's on that, and I'll send him recommendations for guests as well in terms of like, I want to get this guy on or this person on and so on and so forth. Because they're always trying to build out the stable and trying to stay au courant and all that. So it's really just the three of us figuring it out on a daily basis. And, and then we have management overlay, the man that we all work for, and sales staff that's riding point on getting advertisers to keep the lights on and pay my exorbitant salary. So I don't know. That's sort of the sum and substance of it. And then I read a lot and think a little and enlist the help of our listeners to get through the morning every day. Okay, that's my summation. I don't know if that suffices, but that's what I got. John in Bridgeport.
Hey, Dan, thanks for taking the call. Yesterday's budget hearing at Communist Office City Hall, there really wasn't much of an emphasis of pension contribution in the budget or anything.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Really?
What a surprise.
Well, Dan, how do you see this playing out? I mean, if you're a city worker, are you going to have a pension 3-4 years from now or 2 years from now, or is it going to dry up midway through your twilight years? How do you see this playing out?
Well, thanks for the call, John. I've said many times, how do I see it playing out when you have public sector pensions, fire and police pensions that are less than 25% funded? And though this is in a 10-year bull market, I see it playing out badly. You know, I can't predict with precision if it's 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. But if I was in my 40s and a police officer or firefighter, and other employees too, but particularly police and fire, I'd be nervous. I'd be really nervous about my full pension for the rest of my days. I'd be really nervous about getting what was promised to me. They've been lying to you for a long time, but unfortunately we continue to reelect the liars. Nobody wants to reckon. Close it out with Chuck in Delavan. Quickly, Chuck.
Hey, thanks for mentioning my band, Reelect the Liars. Hey, Snake Road, the colors haven't changed yet on Snake Road. We got Foley's Karaoke tonight at 9, 7 to 10, back-to-back, Friday and Saturday, Eli Duo at Pier 290. I'll be over there dancing. Everybody get
All
up.
right, Chuck. Have a great weekend. Polish karaoke. Who could resist that? Thank you for joining us this week on Chicago's Morning Answer, and for everybody who contributed to our always entertaining Open Mic Friday. It is now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
He said nothing.